Alright, so before we jump into this, first I want to say again, thank you to Pixelberry and Pixelberry Studios and Play Choices for partnering with me for the stream. Thank you very much. We're going to jump into Nightbound Chapter 4. This one was called... This chapter was called... let's see... In the Lair of Luxury. Oh, that's nice. The search for Cal's missing brother Donnie has brought you to the doors of Persephone, the most exclusive club in New Orleans. And Miranda says, Cal, you're sure your brother's in there? He says, he was here less than an hour ago, and his scent leads right up to that building. What are we waiting for? And Nick puts a hand on Cal's shoulder, giving him a warning look. Cool your jets, see those guys? And he points to a pair of tall, stone-faced men flanking the doors, each holding a glowing silver baton. And Cal says, I could take them and you too could. And Nick says, nuh-uh. Those batons are made of a runically modified silver alloy. Monster kryptonite. They'll lay your ass out, wolf or not. Nick says, this place is strictly members only. Caters only to the richest and most powerful supernatural clientele in town. And they do not take kindly to the riffraff trying to mingle. Me too! I saw this hair and I was like, oh, it's cute! And Miranda says, we could pretend to be members. Nick says, nope again. This is your favorite college dive bar. Watch. Nick points to a gorgeous couple in sparkling cocktail dresses. They show their hands to the guards who bow and wave them inside. And Nick says, you see those big-ass signet rings on their fingers? And it's a gold ring with like a crest in the center and it's ornate on the sides. It's very shiny. Nick says, anyone who tries to get in without one of those gets a one-way ticket to Hurt City. Miranda says, so, how do you get a ring? Nick shrugs and he rolls his eyes. This is a whole lot of green and even more connections. Supernatural beings like pretending to be better than each other as much as humans do. Miranda says, well, that's cynical. He says, well, that's life. Cal says, well, what? So you're gonna just give up? And he says, I'm saying we need to seriously think about if... And Nick trails off, focusing on something over your shoulder. Just flirt with the guards. It works. It works in Royal Romance. Nick says, "Oh, come on! Like this night could get any worse." And you turn to follow his gaze and see a beautiful woman walking toward you, her elegant evening gown swishing around shapely legs. Whoa! Who is this gal? I like her hair. Oh, she has a cool tattoo. It's like, whoa, she's gorgeous! Miranda says, if this is all another crazy dream, nobody wake me. Nick says, you just wait till she starts talking, then it'll be a nightmare. The woman sweeps up to the three of you, giving you a cool, appraising glance before she turns to Nick, and the corner of her mouth twitching. It's like, well, if it isn't Nick Ryder, Ace Night Hunter! Nick says, Catherine. Well, what are you doing out here? This is usually where the grown-ups play. If you must know, I'm investigating a lead. Following tips, interviewing witnesses. Not that you know anything about that. I know you hate getting your hands dirty. And Cal gives you a bemused look, leaning close to murmur in your ear. Think they're always like this. She says, something tells me this is their version of playing nice. And then Catherine says, well, I have to admit, I'm surprised you managed to find your way here at all, Ryder. I suppose even your random bumbling will lead you to the right place now and then. That's just probability. And Miranda says, hey! I don't know how you like to do things, but Nick's random bumbling saved my life. And Catherine says, and you are? Miranda, I'm Nick's associate. Catherine says, well, Miranda, If you think Nick is so talented, he must not have told you about the Claire de Lune crystal debacle. I bet Maxwell Greer would have appreciated a touch of discipline on your part. Perhaps even a little nuance, though I'm aware that's really pushing it. And Nick gives a strangled, exasperated groan, pressing both his palms against his forehead. He says, how long are you going to beat that dead horse, Katie? I did my job. I protected the damn artifact, didn't I? Oh, you certainly did. The way I heard it, it was about the only item left intact in the entire Greer mansion. Why don't you tell us the whole story, Nick? Let your associate decide for herself. I romanced her as soon as I saw her. I hear that, Zig. Let's see. Tutorial. Relive one of Nick's trickiest jobs and fight a notorious shapeshifter. And this exclusive scene. Well, Nick, come on, tell me about Claire de Lune. Nick shakes his head morosely, heaving a deep sigh. He says, we really gotta do this? Now? And Miranda smiles at him and says, hey, I'm the rookie, right? And your client. Sounds like I should really hear this story. Nick says, oh, God, how do I keep getting talked into this stuff? And Catherine scoffs into her hand and Nick shoots her a glare, and she mimes zipping her mouth shut. Nick says, okay then, so a couple of years ago I got hired by a collector named Greer to guard his priceless artifact. This was a funny story? Oh, cool, because obviously I didn't get to see this before, so. V! What's going on? You made it! Yes! Now playing as Nick. You're standing alone in the lavishly appointed foyer of a sweeping mansion. Arms crossed over your chest. The muffled hush echoes in your ears. Nick looks kind of sad. He's like, he's thinking it's going to be a long night. A sudden flit of movement interrupts the stillness, and you jerk to alertness, raising your crossbow. Hey, stop right! Nick shouts, and the tension leaves your body in a flood as you spot a tiny, adorable black cat scampering into the room. So far, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure yet. I don't know if I like Nick or Cal more. I liked the gal we met at the bar, that first chapter. How horrible of me to not remember her name. Vera, that's what I was thinking of. Thanks, Fish. And the little black cat goes meow. And Nick's thinking, just Greer's cat. Get a grip, writer. Just then, Maxwell Greer sweeps by, immaculately dressed in a crisp business suit. All quiet on the Western Front, Mr. Ryder? Nick says, could hear a pin drop in here, Mr. Greer. Haven't seen a soul all night. This is marvelous. Let's keep it that way. Remember, Mr. Ryder, the buyer will be here. We'll be in first thing tomorrow, which means... And he checks his watch. An ostentatious Patek Philippe with a subtle, near imperceptible amber glow to its face. Only 4 more hours and 16 celestial rotations of watching over the Claire. I must admit, part of me is quite sorry to see it go. As magical artifacts go, it is incomparable, no? You actually used it a few times? Yeah, Vera? I like it too, and I think it fits her. And Nick says, sure is. So what's the deal with this crystal? And Greer's face brightens with the avid interest of an enthusiast. It's one of those 9 arcane wonders. You do know that much, don't you? And Nick says, yeah, along with the mirror, the torch, the compass, and the 5 others, right? That's correct! The Claire de Lune bears a mystical link to the moon, and can even be used as its stand-in for spells that call for moonlight. Hell, no wonder it's worth a pretty penny, Nick says, and Greer yawns genteelly, covering his mouth. Off to bed for me. I leave the crystal in your keeping for the night, Mr. Ryder. And Nick says, night, Mr. Greer. Oh, and if you're looking for your cat, she's in the gallery, cute little thing. And Greer, his mouth just drops. Maxwell Greer's mouth drops and says, what cat? Nick says, oh, hell. And you sprint toward the gallery, your boots thundering over the marble floor, and you careen into the room, lit by the cool, pervasive glow of the crystal. Between display cases housing obscure weapons, talismans, and jewels, you spot a lithe woman dressed in black, holding a huge glowing crystal in both hands. And she looks surprised. She's a woman that's wearing like a black armor, dark hair, she has brown eyes. And the Claire de Lune crystal looks like a really big stone with like, little geodes inside of it and stuff. It's a very lavender and dark. And it's the Claire de Lune, and he says, drop it, lady. A literal cat burglar? Are you for real? And the woman's startled face melts into a sly smile, her eyes glittering with the reflection of the crystalline light. And she sets the crystal down, slowly. And she says, you can call me Sphinx, Night Hunter. And then you can get out of my way. She bares her teeth, hissing as she springs toward you with hands curved into claws. Sss. And we should roll with it. The Nova Stone. Oh, yeah. As she sails through the air toward you, you duck, and then reach up and heave her over your head, sending her flying. And she says, what? And she crashes into a display case of jeweled knives, sending a shower of glass raining to the floor. And she goes, oh. And as she leaps back to her feet, you lunge and snatch up one of the knives. It's a gold dagger. Grab it! Sphinx shifts from foot to foot in readiness, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Not bad, Night Hunter. I'd heard you were a fragile thing, but I see I've been swindled. And Nick says, talk about swindling. You're the one trying to jack someone else's magic crystal, lady. He says, she says, let's be reasonable. I could give it such a happy home. And he says, not if I can help it. I should lunge at her. You lunge at Sphinx, slashing at her with the blade. Gah! He says. But before the blade can sink home, Sphinx transforms. Her body ripples and contorts, shrieking as a pair of wings burst out of her back, and your blade slices harmlessly through empty air as an inky, glossy, feathered crow wings up to the ceiling. Cree! Sphinx is now a blackbird. And Nick says, have I ever told you I hate shifters? And you swipe at the crow and miss, knocking the turquoise vase off of its plinth to shatter on the floor. And Nick says, oh great, just fantastic, this keeps getting better. And the crow cackles, and then banks a sharp left and dives at your face. Ski! And you throw up an arm, and the bird's talons rake through your sleeve, scoring a bright, angry gash down your forearm. And Nick says, ah! Hey, Saiyan! Oh, well, I'm glad you popped in. Thank you for that. I'm glad you're here. You stumble backwards right into another glass cabinet, and it tips over, knocking down two smaller cabinets in its path. Nick says, damn it! The crow wheels away, cawing victoriously, and then comes swooping back. Ka! Hit the bird. And as the crow plummets toward you, you take a step to the side, backhand it with all your might, sending it tumbling through the air. Alright, Jacob. Cree! Before it hits the ground, Sphinx's bird form flickers, elongating and thickening as the feathers melt into a furry coat. And a small black cat lands lightly on the floor in the bird's place, dainty paws first. Hey, Silky C, how you doing? Sphinx purrs, and Nick says, okay, that's it, playtime's officially over. As the cat prowls warily toward you, you scour the wreckage of the room for a weapon to contain the shifter, and you spot a pair of glowing nunchucks, a smoldering sword, and then your eyes fall on a simple pair of shackles, subtly carved with runes. Enchanted handcuffs, just what I need! Hey, Max. And Nick says, ladies and gentlemen, we are in business. Before the cat can weave between your ankles and out the door, you lunge toward the handcuffs. They're warm in your grip, buzzing with power. A suspicious gleam lights in the cat's amber eyes as you stalk toward her. And she's like, "Er?" Here, kitty, 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 Nick says. Fur bristling, the cat leans back into its haunches and leaps straight into the air. Carrie says, wait, what are these handcuffs for? And you dart forward, grabbing it by the scruff. In one deft, fluid movement, you wrap one of the cuffs around its paw and click it closed. The cat abruptly transforms back to the shifter's human form. As she stumbles against you, panting, you slap the other cuff on her free hand. Ow, these sting! Should have thought of that before you put your grubby paws on someone else's stuff, Nick says. And as you haul a grumbling sphinx toward the door, Maxwell Greer rushes at his face, collapsing in horror as he takes in the room. Nick says, well, happy to report that the Claire's safe and sound, sir. Greer gapes at the shattered display cases, toppled shelves, and artifacts strewn across the floor in pieces. And then his gaze falls on you, his face darkening with fury. Oh, fantastic news, Mr. Ryder. Bloody phenomenal, really. Just one question. What about everything else? Miranda says, wow, so did he pay you? Kinda. I offered to clear the slate, but he wouldn't back out on a deal, and, after accounting for all the damage to his gallery, it turned out I owed him money, so... Catherine says, are you saying you paid Greer for the privilege of guarding the Claire writer? This is too good! Catherine sighs, her face sobering as she smooths the folds of her elegant gown. And Catherine says, well, as delightful as story time has been, duty calls. She lifts her hand to show a Persephone signet ring glimmering in the moonlight. And Cal says, hey, where did you get that? And she says, never you mind, but one more thing before I run. And Catherine leans in, and the last of her playful sparkle fades from her eyes. Ryder, whatever you're playing at, walk away now. Nick says, cut the wiser-than-thou crap, would you, Katie? I can handle myself. This is a hornet's nest you do not want to stir up. Just trust me on this one. With one last grim look over her shoulder, she sweeps over to the doors and disappears into the club. And Miranda says, well, what now? Do we listen to her? Nick says, oh, hell no. Now we're definitely sneaking in. Cal says, I don't want to rain on your sudden enthusiasm for rescuing my brother, but there's still a question of how. And just then, three very drunk businessmen stagger out of the club, wobbling on their feet and laughing uproariously. Ship of Fools, I'll redeem the joke here in a second. Just give me a few. As you focus on them, their features flicker, becoming pointed and inhuman. He's a guy in a gray pinstripe business suit with a red tie, and he looks like a troll. And Miranda says, Nick! Those guys, they're not human! And Nick's gaze lands on them, and a slow smile spreads over his face. He says, nope, they're goblins, and there are marks. Miranda says, what? How? Nick says, we can con them. We get their rings. Goblins aren't the brightest bulbs on a good day, and these guys can barely see should be cake. But cons take two, Rook, so get your game face on. And Cal says, well, what about me? Can I help? Nick gives Cal's large frame a skeptical once-over. No offense, buddy, but even a drunk goblin can tell your pack. One look at you and they're gonna run for the hills. Nick jerks his head in an alley a block down from the club. He says, why don't you wait over there for us? We'll reconvene once the job's done. Cal says, fine, through gritted teeth. And tossing you an impatient look, Cal heads over to the alley, leaving you with Nick. Miranda says, okay, so what are we doing here? Nick says, game's simple. One of us distracts them while the other one steals the rings. So what's it gonna be, rookie? You want to block or you want to loot? Alright, Zig, thanks for coming to hang out. I appreciate it. Max says, ah, Cal, my heart swoons. Miranda says, I'll steal the rings. Nick says, you sure you can handle it? I took years of violin lessons. These fingers are like lightning. You hang back as Nick approaches the goblins and runs right into one of them. Hey, dude, watch where you're going, will you? And the goblin businessman says, what? You bumped into me. And Nick says, man, I was standing right here. You walked right into me. The goblin businessman says, what? That's not. Nick says, some people acting like they own the sidewalk. You always choose Cal as your love interest, yeah? As the encounter gets heated, you slip behind the distracted goblins, who are all drunkenly arguing with Nick. And you grab the rings. Heart racing, you dart in, carefully easing the large rings off the goblin's slack, scaly fingers. And Nick, in his disguised voice, says again, you know what? You're right. My bad. I should have been more careful. The goblin businessman says, but you said... Nick says, I know what I said, but I'm man enough to admit when I was wrong. Happens to the best of us. And as the goblins exchange perplexed, glassy-eyed looks, you and Nick head toward the alley. Signet rings in hand, you and Nick rejoin Cal, your blood still pumping hard. And Cal says, well, did it work? You have them? Nick says, got him right here. And you slip on your new signet ring, feeling its surprising weight on your finger. Cal says, okay, are we ready to go in? Nick says, not quite. You might be in your fancy duds, but Miranda and I don't exactly fit the dress code. Come on, rookie. I saw a place around the corner. And while we're shopping, give me like 2 seconds, we'll tell a joke, and then we'll continue it. One moment. A lot of people like Cal, though, Max, seems like. And I haven't seen enough of him yet to really make a, you know, like a determination. Oh, you always do the distraction? Yeah, I figured I'd switch it up. You know, a lot of folks would think, oh, the girl will just do the distraction part. It's like, nah, let's switch it up. See, at first it was hard to choose between him and Nick. Okay. My allergies have been acting up, so had to take care of that. Alright. So, let's find a bad joke, and then we'll get to shopping here. But I mean, Cal's hair and just everything else. Yes. Cal is pretty cute. Nick's cute too. I like see, I can't choose yet. I just can't choose. So, for the Ship of Fools, the bad joke is, what do you call a goblin who specializes in blood magic? Since we were talking about goblins. So what do you call a goblin who specializes in blood magic? A hemogoblin. That was good. Yes, a hemogoblin. Soon, you're in a high-end clothing store, running your hands over dark, sumptuous fabrics and glittering jewelry, while Cal stands nearby, shifting impatiently. And Cal looks a little sad, and he's like, do we really have time for this? And Miranda says, it makes sense that we want to blend in, but I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to wear to a... Behind you, the fitting room door swings open, and you turn and stop short as you take in Nick's outfit. Well, hello there, handsome. You look sharp. I love the detail on this vest. It looks really good. Ah, pocket squares! Ah, I love a good pocket square. Wow, Nick, you clean up pretty good. And Nick winks and straightening the pins on his collar. He says a night hunter's gotta be ready for anything, including high-class affairs. Moving past you, Nick scans through the racks with a critical eye. Rule number 1 of infiltration: the more hostile the territory, the more you gotta look like you belong. Oh yeah, here we go! And Nick pulls out a wine-colored velvet gown and adds a glittering gold body chain. And Nick says, wear this and you won't just look like you belong at Persephone, you'll look like you own the place. As you can see, I chose this look before. Because I really like it. I mean, yeah, that's nice. It's a gorgeous dress. So yes, we're taking it. And you step out of the fitting room and Nick's eyes widen slightly. It is a pretty dress, it is. And Nick's mouth just drops and he says, wow, that'll do it. And Cal says, seriously, Miranda, if I didn't already know you, I'd be afraid to even talk to you. And Miranda says, aw, thanks, shall we? And you pay for your clothes and head back out into the night. Lady K says, damn! I know, right? The three of you approach Persephone, blending easily with the steady stream of formally dressed patrons. And Cal says, well, here goes nothing. And you flash your signet rings and the guards wave you through, and you catch one of them staring at you as you pass. And Miranda's thinking, damn, I must look good. Inside, huge chandeliers drip from the ceiling like crystal waterfalls, reflecting shards of blue and violet light in all directions. Beautiful people wrapped in exotic silks and velvet lounge in plush booths, faces strange in the flickering candlelight. And Miranda says, this is just unreal. And Nick looks a little bit miffed and he says, no expense spared for the Crescent City's supernatural elite. And Miranda says, Cal, do you see Donnie? Intent, Cal scans the faces of the crowd and he sniffs the air, nostrils flaring, and then his face falls. I lost him. This place reeks of magic. It's fouling up the trail. And you touch Cal's arm, giving it a light squeeze. And Miranda says, we'll find him. The trail ended here, right? So he must still be in here somewhere. And Nick says, yeah, this place is huge. And I've heard it serves up a lot of real specific entertainment. I'm betting that's where we'll find our boy. Let's grab a seat, okay? The waitstaff always knows the dirt in a place like this. And Cal nods glumly, and the two of you follow Nick to one of the lavish booths. You sit. A tuxedo-clad waiter approaches, setting 3 crystal goblets on the gleaming marble tabletop. The waiter says, Monsieur et Mademoiselle, welcome to Persephone. The waiter smiles obsequiously, bowing low in your direction. Waiter says, well, how may I serve you this evening? Perhaps an aperitif to start? Nick gives the waiter an imperious look, lounging back in his chair and crossing his legs. Nick says, a bottle of, is it Velvet? Clicquot? Parsardin? To begin? Well chilled. Oh gosh, I totally butchered that, and I'm so sorry. And the waiter says, certainly, sir. And Nick catches your surprised expression and gives you the tiniest of smirks. Your beluga caviar is fresh harvested, I assume. And Cal leans in close, whispering in your ear. Is he for real? Think he actually knows the difference? And Miranda says, you never know with Nick. The waiter says, of course, sir, as always. Will you be needing anything else? Nick says, actually, yes. Much as I enjoy your fine selection of drinks, I'm also curious about your more piquant entertainment. And the waiter's eyes gleam with curiosity. Of course, sir. I'm sure that Persephone will have something that will be to your taste. Will your companions be wishing to join you? And Miranda says, well, I will, of course. I'm his business associate. And you give Nick a warm, conspiratorial look before turning back to the waiter. And Miranda says, we came here for more than champagne. I'm told Persephone caters to more expensive taste. I'm very much hoping you don't disappoint. And the waiter gives you a discreet nod. We strive to serve our guests in every respect. Perhaps after your drinks, you might wish to avail yourselves of our more exclusive services elsewhere in the facility. Bowing from the waist, the waiter backs away from the table, and once he's gone, Nick gives you a surprised, appreciative look. Well played, Rook. Way to think on your feet, Nick says. And Miranda says, I'm a pretty quick study. Cal says, more exclusive services? What do you think he meant by that? Hey, Eric. Nick says, nothing good, I'd bet. And the three of you settle in, looking around discreetly at the other guests. On the far side of the room, an older man with a regal air catches your eye. I don't know, he looks kind of like an elf. He has like silverish hair and very pale skin. I told you to stop romancing this Blade wannabe and date the Cajun. We're not dating anyone. I have not chosen a love interest yet, Raven. I haven't. I have not chosen. Date the guy with the accent. I can't do an accent, but I'm guessing he probably has an accent. And Miranda's thinking, that man, why do I feel like I know him? And unable to place the man's elegant features, you elbow Nick in the side. I'm sure they both have accents. I just can't do them. And Miranda says, hey, Nick, who's that guy over there? I hear Gambit every time I see Cher. I'll try to do the accents. I'm not good at that, but I will try. Nick follows your gaze and then lets out a low whistle. I'll be damned. That's Lord Elric, head of the local Fey colony. Lord Elric's here. Damn, you weren't kidding about his place being fancy. And Miranda says, you said he's Fey, like Garrus at the graveyard shift? See, I can't do accents. We're not going to do that. I will completely forget what I'm doing, and then it'll just be bad. Nick says, yeah, though Garrus was never really cut out for the Fey life. Kind of a black sheep by their standards. And Miranda says, well, what are the rest of the Fey like? Fairy says, first of all, those are fighting words, Raven. Uh-oh. We have Cal fans in the house, so you know, we gotta watch. Did anyone in here romance Nick? That's what I want to know. So, who did everybody romance in the book? I think Eric says Catherine is the correct choice, so Catherine is a ally. You did on the second playthrough. Fishty said she romances Nick. Faye says Nick. Choices Lady says Nick. Okay. So it's not all Cal fans in here. Alright. I was just checking. I had to check. I may be swayed. I may be swayed by folks who have the bigger following. I don't like werewolves. I like supernatural creatures in general. If you gave me a choice between vampires and werewolves, vampires. Vampires win out all the time, every time. She always romances my least favorite. Yes, Raven would always pick the werewolf. So, yeah. Cal says, well, they're not like the rest of us, for one. Most supernaturals like goblins, witches, wolves, whatever, they're still born to this world. Thank you, Shoe Chick. Vampires all night. Cal says, the Fae, well, they're from another realm altogether. I'll try. I'll have to try to remember that. Miranda says, another realm? Hang on. How many realms are there? Nick says, questions like that are a bit above my pay grade. Fae realm's the only one I know about. The Fae keep to their colony mostly. I've gotten to thinking they're only here to regulate. Miranda says, what do you mean? We got a lot of heavy-hitting magic wielders on this side of the fence. I think they like to keep an eye out. Make sure no one's getting too powerful. Whatever their reason for being here, Elric's the guy in charge. And Miranda says, well, tell me more about Lord Elric. And Nick shrugs, rubbing the back of his neck. I've never dealt with him personally, but he's got a sterling reputation. He's a noble, a Duke of the Fae. Generous, loyal, takes care of his people, all that good stuff. Never heard of anyone else having beef with him. Anyone around here, that's basically unheard of. And Miranda says, has he been here long? Nick says, a lot longer than I have. That's for damn sure. Elric may look middle-aged, but Fae don't age like we do. And Cal says, for sure. Wolves are pretty long-lived too, but nothing like them. Elric's pushing 2 centuries at least. And on stage, the band launches into a tender song. Many of the glamorous couples stand trailing towards the dance floor. And Miranda says, well, speaking of blending in... Oh, gosh. Stop. Y'all, wow. Yeah, Nick is kind of hard to get. He's, you know, he kind of plays like, you know, you're just a job. And I'm okay with that. I love those types of love interests, you know, where you gotta really work at it. And your eyes flit from Nick to Cal, and it's clear. You're all thinking the same thing. Raven, I think we might need a poll. So who are we dancing with? We might need a poll. So, let's see. 1 for Nick, 2 for Cal. So 1 for Nick, 2 for Cal. Who are we dancing with, Nick or Cal? Only 1 for Nick? What? Oh, okay, 2 for Nick. There we go. Vote. The poll is up. Oh, 67% for Nick. It's 67% for Nick, 33% for Cal. Only 1 is voted for Cal. Ouch. So up at the top, you should see a poll that just popped up. So we're romancing who tonight? Right now, Nick is winning. 3. Oh, dance with no one, Eric? We're gonna dance with no one? Really? I don't know. These guys are looking pretty handsome. I really like what he's wearing. Nick annoyed me. I had my Wolfman Cal. Uh-oh. 4 votes for Nick. 80%. Cal only has 1 vote? Ouch. I'll vote for Cal. 5 votes for Nick! Eric says Cal? So that's what, 3 for Cal? 5 for Nick right now? Alright, I think Nick is winning, so we're dancing with Nick. You stand, holding out a hand to Nick, and he looks up at you, raising one eyebrow. And Miranda says, may I have this dance? Sure. Are we celebrating in the chat? We got, is that what we're doing? Oh. Oh, hey, brown-eyed beauty. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. Hello, hello. You lead Nick to the dance floor and step into his arms. His palm is hard and calloused under yours, and his other hand is warm at the small of your back. And he smiles at you, warm and fleeting, before pulling you a little closer. Bear with me, okay? It's kind of been a while since I did this. In that case, all those Night Hunter reflexes are really coming in handy. You haven't even stepped on me once. The fringe benefits of monster hunting. I'm pretty light on my feet. And Miranda says, and look, nothing's even trying to kill you. Nick says, it is nice. Kinda nice to relax a little for once. And for a moment, he rests his temple against yours and his stubble jaw brushing your cheek. You're like, ooh. And as the last strains of the song die down, you drift apart, both a little flustered. That's definitely like, oh my god. Look at her face. It's OMG. Oh, okay. Is the accent okay? I'm trying to work on it. Because I did not give the guys accents. I didn't even think about it. And Miranda says, I think I'm going to run to the bar. I'm feeling a little warm. And you walk quickly to the opulent bar, your cheeks burning, and you find yourself standing next to Catherine. And Miranda says, And Catherine whirls around, her eyes narrowing in recognition. Miranda, right? Funny, I seem to remember telling you and your buddies to stay away from this place. And Miranda says, I'm looking for someone, but that's not that it's any of your business. We're here on a job, same as you. Yeah, Catherine is gorgeous. Catherine's piercing gaze softens a little as she lifts her drink to you. Well, don't tell Ryder, but I'm a little impressed. I've never even seen you around town before, and yet here you are in its most coveted venue. And Miranda says, well, so are you. And I'm betting you didn't buy your way in either. And Catherine grins and she says, hardly. Why stoop to money when artifice will do? And Miranda says, cheers to that. Oh, thanks, Raven, for putting up the poll. I know you're playing Overwatch. So thank you for doing that. And Catherine takes a sip of her drink and then sets it back on the bar. And Catherine says, all right, playtime's over, sweetheart. I'm working on a case here, a sensitive one. I can't have you and that hothead Ryder blowing my cover. So unless you feel like helping me out, it's probably best if you run back to your friends and pretend we never met. And Miranda says, unless I... Wait, you want my help? And Catherine shrugs, an almost mischievous twinkle in her eyes. Sure, like I said, I'm impressed. You managed to scam your way in here, and you seem like you might be able to keep up. You voted Cal to be difficult? So did I. I couldn't just let him have just one vote. I felt bad. Oop, tutorial. If you team up with Catherine, you'll get a chance to explore the dark allure of Persephone and get a little closer to Catherine, too. Let's do it. Can you tell I already did that? Because look at her. looks like you could use some help. Dark Allure sounds naughty. It probably is. But look at her. Miranda says, so Spill, what's going on here? I tried to vote no one, but no one listened to me. Let's see. And Catherine says, disappearing boys is what? This place has been swallowing up young men from supernatural families throughout the city. I just realized that Catherine looks like a friend of mine, and now I can never romance her. Oh, no! Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let's see. You don't want to share? I vote for Naughty Nick. I was trying to see where the place to end the poll was, but I couldn't see it, so I'm not gonna mess with it right now. I'll let it time out on its own. Catherine says, and notably, failing to spit them back out. And Miranda says, young men disappearing? That sounds familiar. That's actually why we're here too. And Catherine darts an intent glance at you. And Catherine says, well, what do you mean? And Miranda says, we're looking for Cal's little brother Donnie. He's been missing for 2 days. Catherine says, a missing young werewolf. Intriguing. And as you talk, you notice Catherine's sharp eyes flicking over your shoulder. And suddenly, she grabs your wrist. And Catherine says, you see those waiters by the wall, the shifty ones? That's our cue. And you follow Catherine to the back wall where the waiters have disappeared into a door concealed by an ornate folding panel. But then he complains when people don't choose her. It's fine, I'll just feel inadequate next to Vera one of these days. Oh, jeez. And if you haven't yet played Choices, which I think most of us in this room do play Choices, you can download it free right now on Google Play at that link in the chat. You can also download it for free on iOS for in the Apple Play Apple Play Store. No, it's the Apple App Store. You can download it there for free too. Go get it now. And you too can read this book and tell me what your experiences are, because I love to know everybody's choices. Just like I like sharing my choices, I like you sharing your choices, So. Yes! Raven says, go get it now. Be a reader! Yes. We love the stories and choices. We do. After glancing around to make sure you're not being watched, you and Catherine duck through the door, which opens into a long, dim hallway lit with sconces and their light flickering across the lavish wallpaper. And Catherine says, here we are, Persephone's secret heart. Now let's see what we find. And Miranda smiles and she's like, is it weird that I'm kind of excited? Nick won that, so yeah, he won that by a landslide. Let's see, Catherine casts you an amused look through lowered lashes. Catherine says, extremely, but it's my kind of weird. How did you get mixed up with Ryder anyway? And Miranda says, well, it started when someone sent a monster after me, and I got attacked last night by a blood wraith. Catherine says, wow, I didn't know they even made those anymore. Someone must really have it out for you. And Miranda says, so I keep hearing, and she looks kind of sad. And Catherine says, well, I guess there's more to you than meets the eye. And Miranda says, thanks. What about you? How did you get into the life? Catherine says, like most of us do. I lost someone, a friend. And startled, you glanced at Catherine, but her face remains cool and composed. Catherine says, I couldn't go back to the life I had. Not after that. Not when I had the skills to make a difference. Hunting is like any other discipline. Once you make a career of it, it demands commitment, resolve, a level head. And Miranda says, in other words, the opposite of the writer approach. And Catherine chuckles quietly. Catherine says, she smiles and says, writer's not much for working by the book, sure. But I found my way works quite well, though one always pays a price. It's a lonely path to walk. And Catherine goes quiet, and you follow her lead, peeking into some of the rooms as you pass them by. And in one, you see 3 lithe, half-naked women with pale eyes standing over a cowering man, their whips raised as he crawls toward them, pleading. And Miranda says, well, that looks intense. And Catherine says, letting succubi feed on you is a singular experience, definitely not for the faint of heart. Miranda says, they're feeding on what? His pain? And Catherine grins, not his pain, sweetheart, his pleasure. And in another room, you see a pile of people writhing on the floor, the air above them shimmering with blue dust. And she looks kind of sad and says, are they okay? What is that stuff? And Catherine says, fairy dust gives you the most gorgeous unearthly dreams, or traps you in hideous nightmares. And you never know which way it'll go until you try. Miranda says, well, that seems like quite a gamble. Catherine says, the sort of person who comes to a place like this, they've usually got some kind of emptiness inside them. And they'll gamble anything if it means filling that emptiness, even for a moment. Miranda looks shocked and says, do you usually hang out in places like this? And Catherine smirks. Catherine says, I go wherever the hunt takes me, and I've seen things that make this look positively tame. And you pass yet another room, and a huddle of goblins crowd around throwing dice. And Miranda says, wait, are they playing Yahtzee? And just then, a door swings open, and a brawny guard with a silver baton emerges from one of the rooms. And Catherine says, in here! And she ducks into a tiny storage closet, pulling you in behind her. And Miranda says, oof! Catherine says, shh. The two of you press together in the tight hiding space. And you're suddenly aware of Catherine's body pressed against yours, her warmth, her skin, and the light scent of her perfume. Miranda says, so, Catherine, seems like we're getting pretty close. Does this mean I get to call you Katie? Yahtzee! And Catherine laughs quietly, her breath fluttering against your neck. And Catherine says, Ryder just does that because he thinks it gets under my skin. And Miranda says, well, does it? Catherine meets your eyes, hers dark and glittering in the low light. And Catherine says, let's keep this between us. But I'm not nearly as uptight as he thinks I am. And just then, you hear the door slam shut, peeking through the slats. You see that the guard has disappeared back into one of the rooms. And Miranda says, I think we're good to go. Catherine cautiously eases the closet door open, taking a wary look outside. And Catherine says, all clear, come on. And still a bit breathless, you follow Catherine down the hallway toward a door in the very back, and it swings open to reveal a huge room with a massive iron cage at the back. Inside, a bloodied centaur and a satyr are locked in tense, vicious combat. A drunk, unruly throng of people surrounds the cage, hissing and cheering them on, and the room reeks of blood and cigar smoke. The bloom? Sorry. Got a little tongue-tied there. Let's see. Catch up on the chat there. Can I just state for the occult record that lycanthropes don't always have to be wolves, for crying out loud? That's true. That's true. In a role play that I did a long time ago, I played a were like a were badger or something. It was funny. Miranda says, "Oh my God!" And you look around, your mouth going dry, and you see Cal and Nick on the other side. Nick catches your eye and scowls, waving you over. And Miranda looks sad. She goes, "Oops, Nick looks pissed." Catherine says, "Nah, that's just his face." Miranda says, "Still, I should probably get back over there. Thanks for letting me tag along, by the way. It was very educational." Catherine cracks a smile. "Sure thing. It was honestly nice to have the company. Maybe next time you'll actually get to hit someone." And she says, Miranda says, "Looking forward to it." The first rule of Monster Fight Club is, we don't talk about Monster Fight Club. Let's see. The Vixeny Werefox or Wereraven. Yeah, you're right, Raven. With one last look, she plunges into the throng, and you circle the jostling crowd, clinging to the walls, and until you find yourself beside Nick and Cal, and Nick grips your arm, pulling you closer to his side. What do I always say about wandering off? Where the hell did you go up there? Where the hell did you go up there? There we go. Thought we'd lost you. And Miranda says, "I'm fine, but what the hell is this?" And Nick says, "Welcome to the elite world of monster cage fighting. The most expensive game in town." Cal says, "Seriously, this is how rich people get their kicks? That's sick." Nick shrugs, eyes on the carnage in the cage. Nick says, "Nothing gets the heart pumping like a little bloodshed, right? From what I hear, the winner walks away with a heavy wallet." Nick says, "And what about the one who doesn't walk away?" And Miranda says, "Well, it sounds pretty much like MMA, except, supernatural." The centaur delivers a vicious kick to the satyr's chest, slamming him into the bars, and the front row of spectators gasps at the spray of blood, and then let out a roaring cheer. And Miranda says, "And way more blood." As you avert your eyes from the fight, you see Cal staring at a nervous-looking young man near the edge of the cage. And he's wearing a sweater. Looks like it's teal with a white stripe and brown hair, and he looks really young. Cal shouts, "Donnie!" Cal plunges into the crowd, elbowing spectators out of the way. Groaning, Nick grabs your arm and dives in after him, and you shove your way through the crowd until you reach the spot where Cal argues with a shaking, sweaty-faced Donnie. "Cal, what are you doing here?" Cal says, "Oh no, that's not how we're going to play this. What are you doing here?" And Donnie says, "I don't. How'd you even find me? The promoter said their wards would stop you from following my scent." And Cal closes his eyes, all the blood draining from his face, and you see him take deep, even breaths, his nostrils flaring. Cal says, "You had those people hide you from me?" And Donnie says, "I'm sorry, bro. I'm so sorry. I screwed up real bad." And Nick says, "Talk to us, kid. What did you do?" I've kind of been going to the riverboat casinos, mostly blackjack, a little poker here and there, like you and I used to play with Dad." Cal groans, covering his face with his hands. Cal says, "You're not even old enough to gamble, Don. You know that." "Yeah, but it was just going so well for a while, really well. You'd have been proud, I swear. But last week, while you were in Vegas, I started losing real bad, and I couldn't pay it off. And I guess Lady Smoke holds the debt, so..." Nick says, "You've been messing around with Lady Smoke's money? Oh, hell, you're a dead man." And Miranda says, "Nick, stop, you're scaring him." And Donnie says, the promoter said I could work it off with just one fight, but..." And he swallows hard and points a shaking finger at the ring. Donnie says, I can hold my own, Cal. You know I can, but I didn't know I was going to be fighting that." And as the crowd explodes into thunderous cheering, your gaze flies to the cage where a beast with a hulking human body and a shaggy bull's head stomps into the spotlight. Woo! It's a Minotaur! It's a Minotaur! Roar! And Miranda says, "Is that a Minotaur? We need to leave now." No way can we let Donnie fight that thing! Nick, tell me you see a way out of here! Hamburger that Minotaur, Raven says. I like that while Cal was locked up in Vegas, his brother was digging a grave. Yeah, no doubt. And Nick frowns and says, I'm trying, rookie, but it ain't looking good. One of the promoters walks over to you, grabbing Donnie by the shoulders and giving him a little shake. And the fight promoter says, You ready, Lowell? You psyched? Blood pumping. And Donnie says, I can't do it. I can't fight that thing. It'll kill me. And the fight promoter says, That's not what we agreed to. Don't wanna is no longer an option. You've seen the posters. Werewolf versus Minotaur. It's our title fight. All bets are in. No turning back now. And Cal says, What's wrong with you? He's just a kid. A kid who owes Lady Smoke an arm and a leg. And Nick says, Maybe literally. Miranda says, Nick! Sighing deeply, Cal grabs his brother and pulls him close for a rough hug. This was a really dumb move, kid, even for you, but I love you, and I'm glad I found you. Donnie says, Me too, Cal! Cal needs a date with the barber stat. You don't like his long hair? His flowing locks? I have no long hair anymore, so... So, I just get... We'll pretend I'll shake my hair a little bit. Oh my gosh. As Cal's hair is perfect, KT says. Perfect just the way it is. As Donnie's eyes well with tears, Cal pulls back and then headbutts his brother in the forehead, knocking him out. Donnie's like, ugh. He needs a man bun. What? And Miranda shouts, Cal! Donnie's legs give out from under him and Cal gently lowers him to the floor. And the fight promoter says, What the hell? Oh, you're deep now, my friend. When Lady Smoke's here, this fight is off. And Cal says, Don't worry, friend. You'll get your fight. Werewolf versus Minotaur, just like you wanted. And Miranda says, Cal? Cal raises his hand to quiet you, staring the promoter right in the eyes. You need a werewolf to fight. You've got one. I'll fight in Donnie's place. In an epic battle of Werewolf versus Minotaur, will Cal prevail, or will you lose him? Keep playing to find out. So, that was Chapter 4. We're going to take a break for a couple minutes, and then we will continue with Chapter 5. Into the Bayou is next. And I will be right back. Alright, I am back. Switch our screen here. There we go. Hello. What's up? I'm MartianKat. This is Nightbound by Choices. Thank you, Choices, for partnering with me for the stream. And Pixelberry, thank you so much for partnering with me for the stream. We're going to continue. This is Chapter 5. Into the Bayou. Let's see. Eric says, imagine if you could actually lose a character this early in a book. Ooh, I know. It's like Chapter 5 and whoa, that would be rough. Lady K says, Lord Jesus. And uses a church fan. Katie says, this would have become Until Dawn real quick. I know, right? Alright. In the darkest depths of Club Persephone, you finally found Cal's brother Donnie, slated for a deadly cage fight with a Minotaur. That is, until Cal knocked Donnie out and took his brother's place. And Miranda says, Cal, are you sure about this? That thing looks like it's out for blood. And you look nervously up at the cage where the Minotaur paces, bellowing savagely. Grrr! And Cal looks a little sad and says, I don't have a choice, Miranda. He's my brother. And Lady Smoke isn't known for her forgiving nature. And Miranda says, who is Lady Smoke anyway, and why is everyone so afraid of her? Nick says, big time mob boss. She basically runs the city's dirtiest deals. How to beat up a Minotaur, set up a grill and have a barbecue. Raven. That's my mom said that. And Nick says, people who get on her bad side have a nasty habit of disappearing or dying horribly. And Cal says, I'm all Donnie has. Whatever debt she's racked up, they're mine too. That's what family means. And Miranda says, there has to be another way. What if we talk to Lady Smoke? And Nick says, what? And convince her to forget Donnie's debt out of the goodness of her heart? Cal's got a better shot trying to reason with Buffalo Bill up there. Miranda says, but... And Cal puts a hand on your shoulder, giving you a warm squeeze. And Cal says, I'll be fine, I promise. I grew up pack, remember? Every day meant a different battle, another way to cut my teeth. My dad made sure of that. And the crowd around you grows more agitated by the second, and their excitement is starting to slide more towards anger. And the spectators shouts, hey, I got a lot riding on this fight. What's the holdup? And the spectators, a woman says, if the wolf forfeits, I'd better get my money back. And the fight promoter wipes his sweaty brow and then glares at Cal. Look, you gonna do this or what? The crowd wants what they paid for in Lady Smoke. And in answer, Cal shoves the promoter aside and makes his way toward the center of the room. And tossing you a final reassuring look over his shoulder, Cal shrugs out of his jacket and shirt, stepping into the cage. Let's do this. The crowd explodes into a deafening cheer as Cal squares off against his opponent. The Minotaur roars, pawing at the floor like a wild animal. And Miranda says, Nick, can he really beat that thing? Nick says, he's got this, Miranda. I knew his old man, tough son of a bitch, even for pack. Watch. Cal's breathing becomes quick and ragged, and his eyes blazing gold. Hooked claws burst through Cal's fingers, and dark fur rippling all over his skin. And Miranda says, oh my god! Because that would have been my face. Oh my god. And moments later, an enormous jet black wolf bares its teeth, howling a challenge toward the waiting Minotaur. Arrgh! Cal howls. And Miranda looks and says, he's gorgeous. Miranda says, he's so beautiful and huge. Nick says, yeah, werewolves are much bigger than regular old wolves. pack way more mass than they should. Some weird supernatural physics thing. Miranda says, yes, that's what I'm admiring. The physics. Nick says, touche. Our boy might actually stand a chance. Miranda says, I thought you said he'd be fine. Nick says, hey, I was trying to be supportive. But now, for real, I think he's got a shot. And you catch your breath as the Minotaur stomps a gargantuan foot and then charges forward bellowing. Arrgh! Cal lunges to meet his opponent. He and the Minotaur collide, tumbling to the ground in a tangle of limbs and snapping teeth. And Cal snarls, and the crowd roars its delight, crowding closer around the cage. And Miranda says, what's happening? I can't see! How did you know, Eric? And you shove your way forward, straining to see through the jeering crowd, and you catch a brief glimpse of Cal struggling to escape the Minotaur's chokehold. 1 second. And Miranda is trying to give some moral support. She shouts, get up! Cupping your hands around your mouth, you scream at the top of your lungs. Don't let him keep you down, Cal! You're stronger than this! And Cal's ears perk up at the sound of your voice, and he wrenches his body around in a single explosive movement, sending the Minotaur sprawling. Arr? The Minotaur growls, and Nick says, yeah! Give that cowbell bastard hell, Cal! Panting hard, Cal stalks toward the Minotaur, who's sprawled against the bars, and he growls. And he springs forward, slashing open the Minotaur's chest. The beast bellows, blood gushing from 4 deep wounds. And the Minotaur growls back, and heart pounding furiously, you jump up and down, pumping your fist in the air. You made me guffaw at the cowbell con. Miranda says, that's it, come on, Cal! Nick shouts back, you got him on the ropes, Cal, now finish it! Or finish him. Snarling, Cal prepares to deliver another blow to the sagging Minotaur. Then suddenly stops, his head jerking back as if struck. My eyes started watering, sorry. I was laughing too hard. And Cal is like, raw? And Nick says, the hell? Cal had him dead to rights, huh? Why'd he hesitate? And Cal shakes his head, preparing for another attack, but he flinches away again. This time you see a strange light playing across Cal's eyes, blinding him. And Miranda's thinking, what the? And taking advantage of Cal's sudden disorientation, the Minotaur lands a solid kick on Cal's chest, bowling him over. And he growls, the Minotaur growls, and Cal growls back, and the Minotaur jumps on Cal, bellowing with rage as it delivers a brutal punch to Cal's snout, snapping his head back against the floor. And Miranda says, something's wrong, someone's messing with Cal! And Cal yelps in pain, struggling to escape the pin, and the Minotaur hammers viciously at his ribs, landing blow after blow. And he says, damn it, too many people in here, half of them could be cursing Cal for all we know. And you scan the crowd frantically, looking for anyone who seems suspicious. And near the back of the room, you spot a smirking man with his fist held up, holding an object that glitters like a prism. And it's a cheater. We don't like cheaters. And Miranda's thinking, oh, no, you don't. Without thinking, you plunge into the crowd and elbow your way toward the man. And Miranda shouts, hey, you! I should tackle him. What the? And Miranda says, rah! And the man yelps in surprise as you slam into him with all your might, sending both of you tumbling to the concrete floor. And the cheater says, oof, what the hell are you doing? Get off of me! And Miranda says, not until you give me this! And you grab the sparkling charm and rip it out of his hands. Hey, that's mine! Scrambling to your feet, you dash the charm against the floor and shatters into 100 pieces. And Miranda says, now it's no one's. Anxiously, you turn back to the cage, just in time to see the Minotaur raising both fists for a crushing blow. And it growls, and Miranda says, no! At the last possible moment, Cal shakes off his daze, and he twists, braces all four paws against the Minotaur's chest, and heaves. Cal growls loudly, and the Minotaur flies off of Cal and slams into the side of the cage, causing the bars to buckle outward. The creature goes limp, falling to the floor with a crash that shakes the floor beneath your feet. Cal throws back his head and howls triumphant. Miranda's like, whew, he won! Cal won! Feeling weak with relief, you jostle your way back over to a glowering Nick. That was almost a takeout burger. Hey, Drawley. Oh my gosh. Nick says, hand to God, Miranda. I'm about to handcuff you to me. I'm about ready to handcuff you to me. And Miranda's sitting there thinking, you're threatening me with a good time? And that's not what she said. She says, oh, I'm fine. And look, Cal won! And in the cage, Cal transforms again, his snout molding itself back into human features while his limbs shorten and his fur recedes. And he eases through the gate, the awestruck crowd parting around him as he comes your way. Nobody has time for Nick's double entendres, Raven says. Nick says, well, I'll be damned. You actually pulled it off. And Cal says, yeah, looks like I did. And Miranda says, congratulations! And you give Cal a big old hug. He's all sweaty and stuff. And you fling your arms around Cal's neck, pressing your cheek against his. I'm so glad you're okay. Wait, how does hair get untousled? I know, he should look like a mess, right? He shouldn't be looking all clean and spiffy. Cal slick with sweat, his bare chest blazing hot against yours. He wraps his powerful arms around you, squeezing tight. He's naked. You're hugging a naked man. Fishty says. And Cal says, me too, and thank you. I saw how you helped me back out. How you helped me out there. You saved my life, Miranda. And Donnie comes up behind Cal's shoulder, conscious but still visibly shaken. Bro, I'm so sorry. For a second, I thought that thing had you. If I hadn't gotten you, and it was my fault, I don't know what I would have done. And he hangs his head, shoulders shaking with silent tears. And Donnie says, thanks, bro. Thank you so much. Cal says, hey, kid, it's all right now. Come here. Cal pulls his brother in for a rough hug, squeezing the back of his neck. You know I'm here whenever you need me, Don. Anytime, anywhere. And Donnie says, I know, Cal. And now we're square with Lady Smoke. No more dumb stunts like this, you hear me? I'm not Dad, okay? You don't have to prove anything to me. And Donnie nods, clasping Cal's shoulder, and Nick steps forward, awkwardly clearing his throat. Much as I hate to break up a tender moment, we have a blood wraith to find. Cal! Cal nods, running his hand through his damp, tangled hair. We like hugging naked men, Lady K says. Cal doesn't perspire, he pants. Cal says, right, your hunter Sage is back at the house. And as you move toward the door through the dispersing crowd, you see Catherine coming your way, dragging a handcuffed promoter along with her. Just wait till Lady Smoke hears about this, you bitch! And Catherine says, that's so. And what do you think she'll do when she hears about how much you've been skimming off the top before handing over her cut? And the promoter pales, his face slick with nervous sweat. And as they pass, Catherine throws you a sly wink. Happy hunting, Miranda. And you too, Ryder, I suppose. The sun is just starting to rise as the four of you exit Persephone and pile into Nick's car heading back to Cal and Donnie's house. Donnie says, "It's so good to be home. If it's cool with you, Cal, I think I'm going to go pass out. My head's killing me." "You have a seriously mean headbutt, bro." Cal says, "Choosing to hear that as a heartfelt thank you. Go to sleep it off, kid." Donnie gives you a sheepish wave, disappearing up the stairs to his room. And Nick says, "So, about that sage?" Cal says, "I grow it out back. There's a patch in the eastern corner of the fence near the vegetable garden. Help yourself to whatever's there." Nick says, "I'll do that soon as I get out of this damn suit." Nick heads for the bathroom, duffel bag over his shoulder. With a stifled groan, Cal abruptly slumps against the side of the couch, blood seeping through his shirt. And Miranda says, "Cal, you're hurt!" Gritting his teeth, Cal shakily pushes himself to his feet, leaning hard against the back of the couch. He says, I didn't even feel it until just now. Pain, it doesn't matter as much to the wolf." And Miranda says, "You say that like it's a different creature than you." It kinda is in a way, I mean." Cal gets a faraway look at his eyes and then shakes his head. "Sorry, it's kinda complicated. I should probably go clean up anyway. Gotta admit, I'm not really looking forward to trying to bandage my own back." If you help bandage Cal up, you'll find out more about the wolf inside him and get closer in the process. Which I did when I played through this. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, are we playing through that? I don't know. I'm thinking we might skip it. We'll see. I don't even remember how much that scene was. It's probably like a 15. Well, Fishty, when you put it like that. Miranda says, "Let me bandage you. We doing it." And Cal looks shocked and he says, "Oh, that would be great, actually. Are you sure?" Miranda says, "Happy to help. I'm not exactly a doctor or anything, but I'm pretty good with my hands." Cal says, "Yeah, that's good to know." Blushing a little, you follow Cal to his bedroom. And your gaze skims over the neatly made bed, the stack of books on the bedside table, and a beautifully cut glass bowl filled with herbs and pine cones. And Miranda says, "So this is a wolf's inner sanctum? It's so cozy in here and neat." Cal says, "I like the order. It's nice to have a little peace after being surrounded by pack chaos all day." Fishty. Lady K says she just cackled at what Fishty said. And you take a deep breath, inhaling the scent of Cal's crisp cologne, along with a sharper, greener smell. And Miranda says, "Smells wonderful in here too, like pine needles." And Cal says, "Cuttings from the woods. I like smelling the outside. It reminds me of being the wolf running free." Cal walks unsteadily over to a large armoire and pulls out a first aid kit, and he sets it on the bedside table and then carefully tugs off his shirt. And you gasp at the livid bruising along his side, scored with bloody scratches. And Miranda says, "I didn't realize it was that bad. I'm amazed you're still on your feet." Cal says, "Not for long, I'm afraid. Definitely losing steam." Face taut with pain, Cal lowers himself onto the bed, and you open the kit, taking out gauze and antiseptic. And Miranda says, "You're clearly hurting, but you said pain wasn't important to the wolf." Cal says, it's hard to explain. Unless you felt it. The wolf is part of me, always there. But it's also its own creature. It runs on instinct, doesn't care about the trappings of the human world. Stay clear of the wolf being, give him plenty of garlic." Yeah. And Miranda says, "Well, what does the wolf care about?" And Cal says, "The things all predators care about. Hunting, mating, feeding." And you meet Cal's gaze, heat kindling in your stomach, and his dark eyes are intent on yours. And Miranda says, "That sounds sexy." Cal says, "It is. The wolf has no inhibitions. He indulges in whatever he wants, takes pleasure wherever he finds it." Is it hard letting go of that when you're human? Miranda asks. And Cal says, "Sometimes it feels like I never let it go. Not all the way, like this life is the temporary one." And clearing your throat, you break this charged gaze, reaching for the antiseptic. My eyes started watering. My lights are bright in here. And then Miranda says, you're still bleeding a little. I could clean it up for you." And Cal says, "I'm in your hands." You dab carefully, and Cal scratches, very aware of his closeness and the heat of his skin. And when you look up, you see him watching you searchingly, his eyebrows knitted. "Wolves are supposed to lick their wounds," Raven says. Lady K says, "Mating, huh?" Would he let me have his pops? Oh my gosh. KT says, "Cal is the best wolf LI. Prove you're the alpha." Miranda says, "Am I hurting you?" Cal says, "Not at all. It's just strange having someone tend to me. I'm usually the one doing the doctoring while Donnie does the bleeding." I have to. I can't read everything. Sometimes, sometimes some of these things you just have to be here for. You know what I'm saying? So for the folks on YouTube, I'm sorry. You don't get to see all this stuff in the chat. I apologize. Well, I missed a lot while I was away back then. Yeah, just a little bit. Sorry. Yeah. And Miranda says, "That's sweet. It's really nice that you two are so close, even if Donnie does kind of try your patience." Cal says, "Well, we had to stick together. With 3 older brothers that are dad like ours." Miranda says, "Sounds like he was pretty tough on both of you." Cal says, "Well, he made our family feel like a never-ending competition, always pitting the 5 of us against each other. Eat or be eaten was kind of his life philosophy." And Miranda says, "I can't imagine growing up like that." And Cal says, "I can't blame him, though, not entirely. Pack mentality demands a tough facade. And if he hadn't drilled survival into me, Donnie and I might never have made it out alive tonight." And Miranda says, "Well, you did make it. Both of you. Maybe just a little worse for wear." Cal chuckles quietly and then gasps a little as you carefully wind a bandage around his taut, muscular torso. And as you finish taping it down, your fingertips graze lightly over his skin, and you catch your breath, and then look up to meet his smoldering eyes. And Cal says, "Miranda, And the back door slams, startling you both. Miranda says, "Sounds like Nick is back. We should probably get out of there. Think you can stand?" Cal says, "Definitely. I'm feeling much better thanks to you." And Miranda says, "Anytime, really. Though I hope you're not planning on making monster cage fighting a habit." And Cal says, "A wolf never makes a promise he can't keep. But I'll die happy if I never have to go up against another Minotaur." And you help Cal put on fresh clothes and head back to the living room. Nick walks in, patting his duffel bag with a satisfied smile. Nick is a blocker. Yeah. No time with Cal. I'm trying to give everybody equal time. I'm trying to, because I like Vera too, so it's like, oh man, I like everybody. Nick says, "We're good to go, folks. I got." And he's cut off by a heavy pounding on the front door. And then it slams open and Octavia storms in, flanked by 3 glowering pack members. Cal says, "What?" Octavia looks really pissed. Not the time for questions, boy. If you know what's good for you, and we're all going to see Kristoff now. And Miranda says, you can't barge in here like this. And Cal raises a cautioning hand, cutting you off like, shut it, don't say nothing. Nick will be ruining the moment. And Cal says, actually she can, Miranda. Kristoff is our alpha. My house is his house too, and if he wants us, we go. You dart a glance over to Nick, and who gives you a warning look and a tiny nod. Fuming, you don't resist as the wolves surround you, marching you out of the house. Octavia and her goons take the three of you back to Kristoff's lodge deep in the bayou. Under a punishing sun, brawny, shirtless men swig beer and roar with laughter, throwing horseshoes and roasting chunks of meat over a fire pit, sparring with each other. That sounds like a good time. Miranda says, wow, kind of a different vibe today. It's like a football pregame on steroids. I keep expecting someone to crush a beer can on their forehead. Cal says, must have been a hunt earlier. Everyone's looking a little more feral. A raucous cheer breaks out, and all of you look toward the back of the compound. The compound, where a grinning young werewolf carries a massive dead alligator, and a pack member wearing a fur vest grins. And Cal says, as you can see, it's not exactly my scene. And Octavia says, keep it moving, pup! Kristoff's waiting! Kristoff sits stone-faced on a pile of logs near the central fire pit. Animal carcasses hang on a rack behind him, dripping blood into the gravel. His wolves surround you from behind, pushing you roughly to your knees. Kristoff says, so, Cal Lowell, keeping company with Jimbo's killer, and you've been getting into it at Persephone, I hear. The pack member says, a minotaur, sir. He was cage fighting a minotaur. Then rolling his eyes, Nick leans in close to murmur in your ear. Wolves, always yammering about loyalty, but they'll rat each other out to daddy the first chance they get. Kristoff considers Cal with narrowed eyes, a vein pulsing on his forehead. Kristoff says, fighting without my permission? Not what I would have expected from one of the Lowell's runts. I'd almost be impressed if I wasn't so goddamn furious that one of my boys would pull this kind of stunt right under my nose. Cal says, sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean any disrespect. I can explain. And Kristoff says, should have been doing your explaining first, runt. That's how being a beta works. You ask permission, not forgiveness. And Octavia says, what were you thinking, pup? You shamed our alpha. You shamed all of us. Miranda says, that's not fair. Cal was just defending his brother. Cal was only fighting to protect his little brother, and isn't that what you're all about? Loyalty to the pack? And Kristoff says, a wolf never acts without his alpha's sanction, no matter the circumstances. Now shut the hell up, interloper. And Nick stands, putting a cautioning hand on your shoulder, and he grudgingly inclines his head to Kristoff. See, now y'all making me, like, commit to the accents and stuff. I hope I'm not butchering them too badly. I'm trying not to. Nick stands, putting a cautioning hand on your shoulder. He grudgingly inclines his head to Kristoff. Lots of blockers. This time it's Nick. Yeah. I know we don't usually see eye to eye, Kristoff, but I was there. And I'd like to speak on the runt's behalf. Permission? Go ahead, only because I can't wait to hear what claptrap comes out of your mouth this time. Nick says, the promoters running the fight, they set Cal's brother up. They knew he wouldn't last a round against a minotaur. And Kristoff says, what's that you say? Any of my boys could take a cow-headed, flea-bitten? And Nick says, not this one, Kristoff. This thing was feral, practically rabid. Biggest one I'd ever seen, too. And Cal felled it. Most brutal fight in town, and the werewolf won, one of your boys. A murmur runs through the pack members gathered behind you, and Kristoff rubs his chin thoughtfully. Kristoff says, tell me, how big was the crowd? Who all saw? And Nick says, the place was packed. And it's Persephone, so everyone who's anyone was there. Cal came out of the cage looking like a goddamn hero. Right, Miranda? Miranda says, oh yeah! You should have seen the finishing blow. It was a stunning victory. People will be talking about this fight for years. And Kristoff turns to Cal, a wide grin splitting his face. Sounds like you brought pride to the pack, boy. Went about it all wrong, and I'll have you hide if you do it again. But a victory is a victory. Would have made your old man proud. Cal swallows hard, his nostrils flaring, but he looks up at Kristoff and gives him a brusque nod. He says, I think so too. Thank you, sir. Nick says, great. Now that everyone's getting along, think we could get our stuff back. Our hunter's sage is in my bag, and we... Kristoff says, why are you so hung up on that sage, boy? What needs finding so damn bad? And Miranda says, I'm the one who needs it, actually. My friends and I were attacked by a blood wraith the other night. One of them was hurt pretty... Kristoff stands so abruptly, he overturns a log, which goes tumbling into the fire pit. Kristoff says, a blood wraith? And Miranda says, yeah? Honestly, no one else has been this stoked to hear about one on the loose. Kristoff says, I've been fixing to mount a blood wraith's head on my wall for years. One of the only creatures in the world I've yet to hunt. And you can't have your sage back, boy. But I'll burn some of mine with you if it means I get the kill. And you and Nick exchange surprised looks, and then Nick shrugs. More than fine by me. Let's go prepare the ritual. Miranda, you know the drill. Miranda says, stay right here. Don't touch anything. Don't talk to anyone. Sound about right. Suppressing a smile, Nick leaves with Kristoff and Cal. As the crowd begins to disperse, you notice Octavia considering you with a skeptical eye. Miranda says, can I help you? And Octavia says, I've been thinking. Been a while since a human had guts enough to talk back to Kristoff. You're cute, like a little angry puppy. And Miranda says, thanks, I guess. And Octavia says, you just be careful, little pup. You might feel tough now, but bark too much around here, and you're likely to get bit. With a smirk, Octavia wanders toward what looks like a complex obstacle course with huge tires, rope ladders, and swaying bridges strung between the trees. And Miranda's thinking, maybe I'll show you how tough I am. If you run the obstacle course, you have the chance to pit your prowess against Octavia. I don't show my wife choices, but she would not like Nick. Oh, man. Why not? Why not? So sorry, y'all. My allergies are getting the best of me today. Don't want y'all seeing me dealing with that. So, I'm so sorry for all the camera interrupts. Okay. Well, I did not do this the last time I played, so we're going to challenge Octavia on the course, because I have to see. I have to do it. She hates when people tell her she can't do something. Yeah. I think that our MC would, not like to be told she can't do stuff. I challenged her and won, I think. Oh, you did? Okay, so there's an option to lose, I'm guessing. You wander over to the course where Octavia stands at the start, preparing to run the gauntlet. But she glances up when you approach, raising an eyebrow. I thought the hunter told you to stay put, pup. Miranda says, do you always do what people tell you? And Octavia's eyes flare with aggression, and then her face relaxes as she gives you a wicked smile. And Octavia says, you've got fire. I like that. Smiling back, you jerk your chin toward the obstacle course. And Miranda says, what is this for? And Octavia says, training. A pack is only as strong as the wolves that make it up. Also, it's just plain fun. Want to run it against me and see what you're made of unless you're afraid you don't have the chops. Miranda says, no way! Born game! Which is funny because she's going to be running in this like super fancy dress. And I'm pretty sure she may still be wearing heels. Right? I guess she's going to take her shoes off. Oh, there you go. Octavia just commented on that. That's funny. I was just thinking that. Thank you, Octavia. It says, and you're going to run in that. Octavia looks pointedly at your fancy outfit, and you shrug. Miranda says, yes, I am. Octavia says, badass. In that case, Octavia takes off, darting nimbly across the massive monster truck tires strewn along one track of the course. And Miranda's thinking, holy hell, she's fast. And you launch into the track running alongside hers, and your heart pummeling your ribcage as the tires loom into view. Let's see, run across them. Once I get a leg up, this should be cake. And you fit your fingers into the rubber grooves, finding finger and toe holds along the tread as you hoist yourself up onto that tire. And as you straighten up, you see Octavia, only 2 tires ahead of you on her track. And Miranda says, I just gotta catch her. And you run along the tread, and then launch yourself into a leap, sailing through the air towards the next tire. Miranda's like, ha! And you land easily, or she said, ah! And you land easily, your feet finding purchase, and your body fizzing with exhilaration, and you race onto the next tire, keeping pace with Octavia. And Miranda says, almost there! And you reach the final tire and hop down, landing moments before Octavia as she gapes at you, baffled, and then breaks into a reluctant smile. Octavia says, lucky for me, we're not done yet. Let's see how you climb. She streaks off toward the sprawling oak ahead and shimmies up the trunk, ignoring the rope ladder dangling from the canopy. I'll climb the rope ladder. You follow, scrambling up the ladder. The rungs sway perilously beneath you, the coarse threads biting into your palms. And Miranda says, this is harder than it looks. And you reach for the next rung, gasping as your movement sets the ladder spinning wildly. And Miranda says, whoa! Octavia says, you should have taken the old-fashioned route, pup. And you glance over to see her scaling the trunk with deft, fluid movements, and a powerful urge to win tears through you. And Miranda's thinking, I've got this! As you surge up the ladder, leaning back and forth to counterbalance the spin, scurry easily up the last few rungs onto the platform in the canopy. And Miranda shouts, hell yeah! Before Octavia even reaches the platform, you surge toward the next obstacle. It's 2 parallel rope bridges connecting you to the final platform. And steeling yourself, you step onto the rough planks of one of the bridges. And Miranda says, here goes nothing. And you pick your way across the swaying bridge, stepping carefully, until a sudden gust of wind seizes the bridge, tipping it sharply to the right. And Miranda shouts, whoa! I'll lean right. You lean into the direction of the tilt and nearly fall over the side. And Miranda screams, ah! Clinging wildly to the railing, you swing back and forth like a pendulum, and Octavia streaks past you, whooping, as she reaches the platform. Woo! Octavia shouts. Miranda says, oh. When the bridge rocks to a standstill, you trudge the rest of the way across the bridge. And Miranda says, why are you looking at me like that? And Octavia says, we had a few humans out here before running the gauntlet against one of us. Not a single one of them has ever been able to keep up like you just did. And Miranda says, guess I'm just really coordinated. And Octavia says, yeah, sure you human. Of course, what else would I be? A whistle sounds, and Octavia's head snaps up. Sounds like Kristoff needs me. See you around, whatever you are. Her body shuddering and twisting, Octavia transforms into a wolf. And she turns into like a red wolf, and she jumps down from the platform and lopes off, flashing you a mischievous wolf smile at you over her shoulder. Miranda's thinking, wonder what that was about. You clamber down the platform and look around. Over by one of the smaller fire pits, you notice the young wolf who hauled in the alligator, roasting a dripping skewer over it. He looks up as you approach, giving you a weary once-over. The pack member says, "You were with Cal earlier, right? Cal's brother Donnie is one of my best buddies." And Miranda says, "I'm Miranda. I saw you brought a gator in earlier." And the young man brightens, flashing you an eager smile. He says, "Yeah, I was hunting out in the bayou earlier. I stay human to lure them out, and then I shift to bring them down." Miranda says, "That's strategic." Pack member says, "They're crazy strong, and sometimes they climb trees out there and drop on you from above." Miranda says, "Seriously?" And he says, "I know, right? Horror movie stuff like Jaws, but with gators. Hey, want to try a bite?" Miranda says, "Hell yeah!" He passes you the skewer, the meat still steaming. Pack member says, "Careful, it's hot." You take the stick gingerly, sinking your teeth into the chewy, salty meat. And Miranda says, "Huh, it really does taste like chicken." A moment later, you spot Nick lingering by the gates of the compound with a pensive look on his face. And Nick doesn't look too happy. He looks very it looks like he's frowning a little bit. And waving to the young pack member, you get up and walk over to stand by Nick's side. And Miranda says, "Hey, everything okay with the sage?" Nick says, "Kristoff's a grade A jackass, as per usual, but otherwise, we're solid. We can start the ritual as soon as the sun goes down." And Nick turns again, looking out into the wild. He says, "Man, wish we were out here under different circumstances." Lady K says, "Alligator is delicious, is it?" "I've never had it." Miranda says, "What do you mean?" Nick says, "Not to get sentimental, but the bayou's my favorite place in the world. And we're close to a real special spot. Magical little place. Used to visit a lot when I was a kid." And Miranda says, "Like, actually magical? With a capital M?" And Nick laughs softly, rubbing his stubbled chin. "Nah, just Mother Nature's hand at work. The kind of place that lets you believe there's still beauty in this screwed up world." It's not far from here if you're up for a stroll. And if you take a walk with Nick, you'll witness the hidden charms of the bayou and get a lot closer to him. It's the music. Alright. I'm going to just take a couple minute break, and I'll be right back, and we'll continue on the walk with Nick. I'll be right back. We're back. And with Nick, we're going to tell him, "I'd love to go with you." Miranda says, "I'd love to see this place. It sounds really special." And Nick smiles. No, take a chaperone, Raven says. He's my chaperone. And Nick says, special doesn't even begin to describe it. You'll see. And you follow Nick through the gates and into the trees. Outside the compound, Nick takes you to a secluded, gorgeous haven in the bayou. This didn't work out in the originals. No, it didn't. Hello, Druid. Outside the compound, Nick takes you to a secluded, gorgeous haven in the bayou, and you hold your breath, taking it in. The peachy twilight reflects in a sparkling pool. Its surface still beneath a massive cypress tree dripping with Spanish moss. Miranda says, "It looks like a fairy tale. I don't think I've ever seen anything so perfect. It's like stepping into a storybook." Nick says, "Pretty amazing, huh? Makes you feel easier in your soul somehow, doesn't it? Knowing there's a peace like this, sharing the world with all that bloodshed and madness. Like maybe there's some kind of balance after all." And you steal a glance at Nick's profile as you walk, smiling at his blissful expression.
Oh dear, now I shall have to create more Martians.
And Miranda says, "You really do love it here, don't you?" And Nick says, "The bayou and I, we got a lot of history. My parents were real nature buffs. Pretty sure I learned to walk out here." And Miranda says, "You only mentioned your dad before. What was your mother like?" And Nick says, "I don't remember much. My birth parents both died when I was a little kid. Elijah adopted me after that." And Miranda says, "I'm sorry. Losing your parents when you were so young. That must have been so hard." And Nick says, "It was. No kid should have to see their parents die in front of them." And Miranda looks just shocked. Her mouth drops. And she says, "You actually saw it happen?" And Nick looks upset. And he says, You know what this town's like by now. There's always a monster on your bed." And Miranda says, "You mean they were killed by some kind of creature?" And Nick looks away, a muscle ticking in his jaw. And he frowns a little bit and says, "Yeah, something like that. It was the worst thing I'd ever lived through, other than Elijah dying." And Miranda says, "You must really miss him." We all got monsters in our closets. Yes. And Nick hesitates, rubbing the back of his neck, and his eyes go distant. Then he looks at you head on, the pain written clearly in his gaze. Have you read this one, Druid? And also, I was asking earlier, did everybody read their Choices Insider today? Did you sign up for it if you haven't yet? Anyone named Elijah just instantly screams to be dated. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Especially if it's Elijah from the originals. Yes. And Nick says, I don't usually talk about any of this, but, I mean, you've gone through some hell too. Oh, cool, Druid. Right on. This is my first time playing through this. Actually, this chapter, chapter 5, is the last chapter I read. So, I have not read, once we start chapter 6, which is what we're gonna do one more chapter after this. And, let's see. Yeah, we should still have time to do one more chapter after this. Then that'll be the furthest I've ever read in this book. So, I'm just now getting caught up to, what I read long time ago when this book first came out. You just played the recent chapter of the Royal Finale. Very nice. I have not yet played that one. The last one I finished was chapter 5, where we found out who a certain someone was. So, yeah. Good old chapter 5. I know. I know. I know. I can't help it. I can't help it. I'm sorry. And I told the chat earlier, Eric, that you were going to grief me about the chapter 5 curse. Oh. And Nick says, I do miss him. I keep waiting for it to stop. It's been almost 7 years, but not a day goes by that I don't think about him. And I miss them, too. You're not supposed to remember things from when you're so little, but... And Miranda says, you do? Yeah? Huh. 1 second, and then I'll let me finish this, and then I'll talk about that. Because I was like, I'm behind on that one, too. Nick says, I do, my mom especially. Nick goes quiet for a long moment, and you reach out, giving his hand an encouraging nudge with yours. I officially demand a prequel to Date Elijah. Yes. Yeah. I'm behind on the royal finale. That's okay. Lots of time to catch up. I'm enjoying it so far. You want to date Sophia now? Oh no. What? No. Oh jeez. Okay, we'll do that. Sophia's up to no good. Oh, jeez. Nick goes quiet for a long moment, and you reach out, giving his hand an encouraging nudge with yours. Miranda says, well, what was she like? Nick says, well, she was Cajun, and I swear, that woman had the bayou in her blood. I remember her taking me out in the swamps, playing hide and seek with me for hours. And Miranda says, that sounds really nice. I agree with that. Dating Sophia is just as bad as dating Robin or Jordan. Take that back. We love Robin. Take that back. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I wanted to date Jordan too. I was like, wait, this isn't fair. I like Jordan too. Oh man, I'm so lost at which book, but oh well. Oh, I love messing with the chat. I love messing with y'all. It's so funny. Yep, I was sitting there thinking like, man, can't we date Robin? Robin is so much fun. And then it's like, wait, and I really like Jordan. Jordan is really sweet. Can't we just like flirt with him for a little bit? My cat is like right here. That's so funny. He's sleeping on the couch right behind me. That's so funny. Let's see. Nick shakes his head with wonder, his eyes gleaming with fond memories, and he says, taught me how to find all the sweetest spots. The places where the bayou opens up to you if you look long enough. I always knew I was safe with her. Did she bring you here? Nick says, yeah, she did. This is one of our special spots. I've never taken anyone else out here before. Miranda says, I thank you for trusting me with it. Stop it. Eric, I saw what you said too. Oh. And Nick says, I just knew you'd like it and that you'd keep it safe. You'll keep it safe, close to your heart, just like I do. And you both fall silent. Fireflies dance like living sparks around you as you walk over to the water. And Nick says, "You want to sit with me for a minute? This water stays nice and cool no matter how hot it gets if you want to dip your feet." And Miranda says, "Sure." Nick kicks off his boots, sitting down at the water's edge with a contented sigh. And Miranda says, "I should go ahead and cuddle close to Nick." You sit next to Nick so close you feel his lean, muscled thigh pressing against yours, and he jumps a little, taken aback, and then leans against you, shoulder to shoulder. "Hey, look, a tree!" Oh, Druid, you're gonna fit in just fine in the chat. Just fine. Oh. Miranda says, "You promise nothing's in there? You promise nothing in there's interested in my toes?" And Nick says, "I guarantee you're safe. And I'm right here, remember? You're not losing so much as a pinky toe on my watch." You slip off your shoes and dip your feet into the pool, sighing with pleasure as the cool water laps against your skin. And Miranda says, "That is pretty nice." Nick says, "See, it's not always murder and mayhem when you're with me." And Miranda says, "I'm not gonna lie, kind of enjoy the excitement too." And Nick says, "Just between us, so do I." And he turns toward you, grinning crookedly, and the space between you abruptly grows thick with tension. I should lean in and... Oh, we're kissing, Nick. Are you kidding me? Ha! We didn't get to kiss Cal, but we're getting to kiss Nick. That's fine. No, yeah, I'm distracted. Y'all are distracting me. But that's okay. That's the fun part. And you lean forward, closing the distance until lips meet Nick's. Until yours lips meet Nick's. His mouth is soft and full, his stubble slightly rough against your skin. And Nick draws a sharp, ragged breath, leaning back a little. "Miranda?" And Miranda's like, "Sorry, was that?" And he tangles his hand in your hair, cupping the back of your head and pulling you closer. And the kiss deepens as Nick trails his fingers down your throat and over your collarbone. Finally, he pulls back, both of you a little breathless. "Well, that was even better than I thought it'd be." And Miranda says, "So you have thought about it?" "Are you kidding? Of course I have. There's just always some damn monster in the way." And you and Nick sit together for a long time, watching as the sun starts to sink, sending glimmers of orange and purple across the clear water. And Miranda says, "We should probably head back, huh?" And Nick says, "Unfortunately, yeah. It's almost dark. Time to roust a blood wraith." I'm gonna look at something here. 1 second, y'all. Ah, jeez. Okay. Actually, okay, actually, because we're gonna be like pushing up onto the 3 hours about the time we end this chapter, and to make sure we have like enough content for the for other parts of the streams, we're gonna actually end our chapter after. We're gonna end our stream after this chapter. Now, if y'all have some questions, if you want to ask me questions or any of those things, drop them in the chat. I will be happy to answer those. About streaming, you can ask me about choices, all those things. Bad jokes, heck yeah, let's go. Yeah, because I don't want to like, get all this tension and then jump into the blood wraith hunt right now. I think we should save that for the next stream. As night falls over the compound, the fire pit glows brightly, throwing licks of light over the gathered pack. And you see Cal standing with Kristoff and catch his eye. He jogs over to you and Nick, his face strained with fatigue. Cal says, are you ready? The ritual's all set up. Kristoff's just waiting on you to light the sage. He's very eager to get started. And Nick says, oh, I'll bet. A new trophy almost in his grubby paws. No wonder he's chomping at the bit. And Miranda says, I can't believe he thinks that thing would be fun to hunt. Nick says, no one ever accused Kristoff of having sound judgment. Cal, watch Miranda, will you, just in case? And Miranda looks upset. She's like, Nick? In case of what? In case you take it upon yourself to find trouble. I do not find trouble. And Nick just looks at her like, okay, you keep telling yourself that. And Miranda says, okay, maybe occasionally. And Cal nods grimly, stepping closer to you. Don't worry, I've got her. And Nick heads over to Kristoff, who's stoking the embers inside an iron bowl, and the fire spews curls of oily black smoke. And Miranda says, so what happens now? Cal says, well, the sage has to be burned over coals that have been smoldering for hours, and cedarwood soaked in orange oil. And Miranda says, why orange oil? Cal says, spellcraft isn't really my forte. I just know the ritual matters. There's also... And Nick holds out a hand to Kristoff, who grips him by the wrist and slashes a curved blade across his palm. And Miranda says, what the hell? And Cal says, I was gonna say the blood of the caster is the final ingredient. Wincing, Nick cups his palm over the flames, letting his blood drip into the bowl and turning the smoke a blazing, bloody scarlet. Now Nick will breathe the smoke in, holding the blood wraith in his mind, and he should be able to see exactly where it is. And Miranda says, that smoke looks poisonous. And Nick leans over the smoke, inhaling it through parted lips. And Kristoff says, is it working? Can you see it? Nick moves his head slowly from side to side, his eyes staring at something you can't see. When he speaks, his voice is strained and rasping. I can see trees under me, a blurring streak, glints of water snaking between them. That means it must be hell. It's in the damn sky. It's flying over the bayou. And Kristoff says, what else? What else do you see? And Nick says, there's a light in the distance, a fire, and people gathered all around it, and I can see the tops of their heads. Wait a minute! A chill rills down your spine, and you exchange an uneasy look with Cal, and then Nick's eyes snap back into focus, and his face is stricken. And Nick shouts, Miranda, get down! A bone-chilling shriek rips through the compound, and a pale, familiar form streaks down from the sky. And it's a blood wraith. Scream! Cal flings his body over yours, pinning you to the ground with his bulk. And Miranda says, oof, Cal, get off! Miranda says, we need to help Nick. Cal says, we're too far to help Nick, and I'm not letting you get anywhere near that thing. The blood wraith lands in front of Kristoff in a blur of robes, its skeletal face contorted in a mask of blind, monstrous rage. Kristoff shouts, what the? And before anyone else can move, Nick is already reaching for his crossbow, loading a bolt and sighting on the blood wraith in one fluid motion. And Nick shouts, over here, you skeletal son of a bitch! The bolt explodes against the blood wraith's temple in a spray of molten sparks, and the creature howls with pain and rage. Nick shouts, everyone get the hell out of here! That won't hold it for... And Octavia shouts, Rah! And Octavia throws herself at the blood wraith, snarling, already half shifted to wolf, and it swats at her aside like an insect. Octavia growls. And Octavia's limp body sails through the air and then slams hard into a tree, flopping bonelessly to the ground. And Kristoff shouts, "Octavia, darling, no!"
Brace yourself for immediate disintegration.
Well, hey, Richard Games. Richard Games, thank you so much for the invasion. We love a good invasion. After all, we are Martians. Here comes trouble. Uh-oh. How far did you get in Star Wars, the Jedi Fallen Order tonight? Hello, Starfall. And, Archivado. Gummy J, hello. Hello, hello, hello. If you've never been to my stream before, what's up? I'm MartianKat. This is Choices, and I'm playing a game called Nightbound. You beat it? Yes. It's such a good game, isn't it? Yeah, so this book is called Nightbound, and I think we're almost at the end of this chapter. So if you have questions about Choices, or if you're interested in what Choices might be about, I can explain that, and then I've taken some questions and stuff, and then we're going to actually be calling it for the night. I want to save the next chapter for the next time, so let's see. Whirling on Kristoff, the blood wraith draws back its skeletal hand and then plunges its claws into his chest. And Kristoff goes, "Urgh, urgh." As Kristoff struggles, flickering between human and wolf, the life leeches from his body. And Miranda says, "No!" Until his flesh withers like a husk around the blood wraith's grip, his gray, decayed skin collapsing over his bones. Tossing his drained body aside, the blood wraith streaks off into the sky, its triumphant shrieks fading into the night. Cal helps you to your feet as the pack converges around Kristoff's corpse, howling mournfully. Nick rushes over to you, his face stricken. "Miranda, are you okay?" And you nod shakily, your knees weak and your teeth still chattering. And Miranda says, I'm fine, but what the hell was that? Why didn't it come after me?" And Nick says, "Because this time you weren't the target." Cal's like, "Guys!" You look up to see the pack advancing on you, their faces dark with menace. And Miranda says, "Uh-oh." One of them points an accusing finger in your direction. You brought this on us! You summoned that creature! You killed our alpha! Will the grieving pack tear all three of you apart, or will you find a way out? Keep playing to find out. And that was the end of Chapter 5. Chapter 6 is Descent into Darkness. So, let's go back. First, bad jokes. 1 second. I owe a bad joke. What do you call a goblin with an injured leg? A hoblin goblin. Oh, don't tell me to stop it. I'll tell another joke for free. Don't do that. No, stop it. You know I don't write the jokes. I just tell them. Come on now. That's funny. I thought that was a good one. You said it as I was spelling it. Yes. Okay. So, Raven asked the question. Let's see. What Choices book made you blush the most? Oh boy. What Choices book made me blush the most? I would say it's probably a tie, at least for current books, probably a tie between the Nanny Affair and Queen Bee. Yep, it's a tie. It's definitely a tie. You know what? There's a lot of us here. I think I could push through one more chapter. I think I can do it. If y'all want another chapter. Yeah? You want another chapter? Is that what we want? Because, you know, I am open. I lend you my energy. I'm not tired. I'm good. You know, I had my 5-hour energy this morning. I got my energy drink here, so I'm actually very good right now. Yeah, that first chapter of Queen Bee was woohoo hot. For folks who have read the Nanny Affair, the gala, the gala was whoo boy, that and the scene in the robotics lab. Those are. I did. I made it to chapter 6. All right. So, kind of looking to see how we're gonna split these chapters. Did this up? Okay, 1 second. Okay, so based on like my current chapter count, we're looking at least maybe 3 streams. Our last stream will have like 4 chapters. So I will have to be very caffeinated for that one. Oh, thank you! Thank you. I figured it was time for a new picture. So I was like, let me take a new picture and put it up. Oh, shoot. Every chapter of TNA makes me blush. Yes. Okay, so for folks who are new to choices, I'll explain it and then we'll get back into it. We'll get back into Nightbound. So, all these are books that I'm reading right now. These are books that could be read if you're VIP, which is the premium account. And all of these are different series that can be read in this app. Choices is free to play. I would say probably the best way to describe it is it's a freemium app where you can play for free, but you get other stuff if you pay for it. Obviously, the free to play model is just like anything you would see in a video game. So it's the same stuff. If you have genres that you like for books, feel free to drop that in the chat. We can give you some suggestions. I have read many of these. I've completed 71 books, and I've read 1,237 chapters. So, I've read a lot. I've read a lot of this stuff. Let's see. And Eric Mitch has read all of the books. So, he's a good source of the questions too. Anybody else have some questions before we jump into that next chapter? Also, did everybody check out the poll that they did in the Choices Insider today about love interests? Whether you like single or multiple love interests in the books? Make sure you do that, because let them know to give the people what they want. Yeah, we know how many I've read. How many books has everyone else read? You did the poll? Good. You voted single with flings. I voted for the poly option. So did I. A lot of people did. I just want everybody. Is that so wrong? 29 books and counting? Yes! 106. Yeah! Man, Eric. busy reader, you. 56 books, 1,013 chapters. Nice. Everybody keep going in there. Keep going with your book counts, your chapter counts. I'd love to see it. You voted for the relationship with hookups. Nice. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and jump into chapter 6 since we're all here. Let's do this. Plagued by werewolves and the restless undead, will you be able to make it through the night? Thank you again to Pixelberry and Choices for partnering with us for this stream. This is chapter 6 of Nightbound. We're having a good time. I'm enjoying myself. Thank you for staying up late. If I'm muted, it's on your side. It's not on mine. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Because, yeah. Yeah, I'm like, everyone's been able to answer me just fine, so I know it's not on my side of the stream. Nightbound. Descent into darkness. In the Werewolves Bayou Enclave, you've just watched the Blood Wraith suck the life out of Kristoff, the Pack Alpha. And now, the surviving werewolves are turning on you. And the pack member, looks really mad. It's the young guy from the alligator hunt earlier, and he says, "You brought that Blood Wraith down on us, Nick Ryder. Kristoff may as well have died by your hand." And Nick says, "Why don't we all just hold our horses for a goddamn minute, talk this through?" The pack member whirls toward Cal, his face a twisted mask of grief and fury in the leaping firelight. "And you! Shame on you for leading these interlopers here! Our Alpha was right not to trust you, you traitor!" And Miranda says, "Wait a minute! What happened to Kristoff was terrible. But we need to focus on the real problem. That Blood Wraith is still out there, and who knows who it's going to target next." Cal gives your shoulder a warning squeeze and leans over to murmur in your ear. "Don't, Miranda. The death of an Alpha feels like the death of the pack itself. Another one will rise, but until then..." Yes! It's a supernatural and werewolf story, but yeah, it's mostly werewolves. Cal says, "They're lost, wallowing in grief. It's so loud they can't hear you through it." And you steal a glance at Cal, taken aback at the devastation etched on his own face. And Miranda says, "You feel it too, don't you?" Cal says, "Yeah, I do. No matter what I thought of him, it still hurts." Octavia limps out of the trees, favoring her left paw, as she begins to growl a low, deep rumble and then bares her teeth in a vicious snarl. Following her lead, the other pack members begin shifting into wolves, and they stalk towards you, snarling and snapping, eyes glittering with hatred. Nick says, "Oh, hell, here we go." As Nick hefts his crossbow, Cal steps in front of you, already shifting into his wolf form, and you lunge forward to grab his shoulders. And Miranda says, "Cal, no, you can't fight! All of them, tear you apart!" And half shifted, he shrugs you off, rasping through a mouthful of elongated teeth. "If they want you, they'll have to come through me." And Miranda says, "But they'll kill you!" Nick catches your arms and tugs you back to his side. "Let him go, Miranda. We don't stand a snowball's chance in hell of making it out, not without Cal fighting for us. And so help me God, I am not letting you die here." And adrenaline pounding through your veins, you stand back helplessly as Cal prepares to pounce, growling a warning as the wolves slink closer. Just then, you hear a piercing wolf whistle from above you, and you whirl around toward the sound and you see a grinning Catherine perched atop the compound wall. I heard I was missing a real ranger out here. My invite must have gotten lost in the mail. And she slips around, a dark object free from her tool belt, hefting it from hand to hand. So I thought to myself, that just won't do. Winding back, she flings the object into the compound, and it burst open on impact, releasing a thick cloud of swirling gray smoke. The smoke creeps over the compound like something alive, coiling and expanding until it completely obscures your vision. In a blind panic, the wolves break into ear-splitting howls and snarls. Miranda says, "Time to run for cover!" And you take off, sprinting in the opposite direction of the clamor, and the smoke swirls in front of your eyes, thick and choking. And Miranda's thinking, I can't see a damn thing! And you collide with something furred and massive, your heart leaping into your throat. And Miranda's thinking, oh no! Then a familiar form emerges from the smoke, looking down at you with warm, golden eyes. And it's Cal. Miranda's thinking, Cal, thank goodness! And, of course, he doesn't understand. And Miranda says, do you know where Nick is? We got separated in the smoke. Can you smell him? And a strong hand suddenly clamps around your wrist, and you dig in your heels, resisting the grip. And Miranda says, hey, let go! And Catherine says, it's me, honey, relax. This way, unless you want to get up close and personal with one of these mongrels. Present company excluded, of course. She's talking about Cal, and says, now come on! Miranda says, I can barely see you. How are we going to find the exit? I came prepared. A drop of Artemis's tears in each eye before I detonated the smoke bomb. I can see clear as day. The pack, though, they'll be chasing their own tails until the smoke clears. And you hear a hoarse, familiar shout piercing through the smoke somewhere to your right. And Nick shouts, get off me, you mangy mutt, get! And Miranda says, that was Nick, and I think he needs my help. This is your chance to help Nick in a fight, spar against the pack, and maybe earn a little respect. Heck yeah, we're gonna help Nick! You veer away from Cal and Catherine, plunging deeper into the smoke. Miranda says, Nick, where are you? Miranda, don't you dare come! And Miranda shouts, Nick! You wade blindly through the smoke, following the echo of Nick's voice, and stumble upon him, surrounded by growling, snapping pack. And Nick says, Miranda? Get out of here now! I can't hold him off much longer there. And before the words leave his mouth, Octavia curls her lip back from her teeth and sinks into her haunches, and preparing to pounce on him. She's in her wolf form and snarling, and I need to grab her by the scruff. Let's see if it works. Without thinking, you dart forward and bury your hand in the warm, bristly scruff of Octavia's neck, digging your fingers hard into her flesh. Oof! And Miranda is like, ha! Tapping into a well of strength you didn't know you had, you haul her bulk bodily away from Nick, fiery pain arcing up your arm. She thrashes in your grip, twisting her body sharply sideways, and wrenches herself free. And she roars again. Saliva dripping from her gleaming fangs, she launches herself at you. And Miranda says, oh, shh! Octavia sails through the coils of smoke, her eyes glowing with rage, and you lunge to the left, and she barrels into your side, knocking you to the ground. Miranda's like, oof! Groaning, you roll over onto your back, and Octavia lands on top of you, pinning your wrists down with her paws. She huffs hot, rank breath into your face, her jaws snapping shut an inch from your nose. Kicker? Grunting with effort, you bring your knees up, tucking them beneath her body, and then drive them into her belly. As a gust of breath rushes out of the wolf, winding her, you buck at her again with all your might, sending her flying. She lands with a thud, whimpering as her head cracks into the stone with a bone-chilling crunch. Her eyes haze over and then slide closed, the length of her body going limp. You stumble to your feet, your head spinning. Wolf and human bodies lay scattered all around you, save for one pack member still in human form who lunges at Nick with a vicious hunting knife held high, his face contorted with rage. And Miranda shouts, "Nick!" And I'll hit him with something. As he collides with Nick, the momentum carrying them both to the ground, you squint through the smoke for a weapon and catch the glint of a rock half buried in the mud. And we grab it. You dart forward, wrapping your hand around it, and then spin back toward Nick. And Miranda shouts, "Nick!" The pack member has Nick pinned to the ground and is raising the knife for a killing blow. "This is for my alpha!" And Miranda says, "Not on my watch." Before he can bring it down, you surge forward and bash the pack member's skull with the rock. Groaning, he topples sideways, crashing to the floor. "Ooh," he makes a noise. Nick blinks up at you, bemusement and something like awe flitting across his face, and you offer him a hand and help him up. "You okay? He brought you down pretty hard." Nick rounds on you, a new, fresh fury kindling in his eyes. "Miranda, they could have killed you. What did I tell you about?" And Miranda says, "Never leaving your sight." And he glares at you for a moment, a moment longer, struggling with himself, and then swipes a hand over his blood-splattered brow, a reluctant smile tugging at his lips. Nick says, "Okay, fair play. I gotta admit, Rook, that took some guts. Where'd you even learn to fight like that?" Miranda says, "What can I say? I had a pretty great teacher. Some of it must have stuck. You weren't so bad yourself. Looks like you took out a small army before I even got here." And you grin at each other, still panting and awash in adrenaline. Nick says, "Your lip's bleeding." "Oh, I didn't even notice. Where?" I got it." Nick reaches out, running his thumb along the corner of your mouth. "One second." Miranda says, "Thanks." "We better get out of here before the wolves have a chance to regroup," Nick says. Miranda says, "Yeah, probably should." You follow him through the curtain of smoke. A few moments later, you reach the compound gates, where the smoke is thinning into wisps. And you spot Cal and Catherine, grim-faced and spattered with blood. Cal catches sight of you and bounds over, huffing worriedly. And Catherine says, "There you are! We were about to dive back in for you, but then we got a bit waylaid." "I know just what you mean," Miranda says. "Come on, the smoke's already starting to dissipate. We need to be elsewhere fast," Catherine says. Catherine leads the way out through the compound's gates and into the dark, tangled bayou beyond. Later, after putting some distance between yourselves and the lodge, Nick throws Catherine a grudging sidelong look and then breaks into a crooked grin. Nick says, "Never thought I'd say this, but hell, it's good to see you, Katie. How'd you find us?" "My employer's interests run counter to the pack, so I keep tabs on them, and I heard chatter that something was afoot. So I dropped by for a look, just in time to see a damn blood wraith dispatch Kristoff. Looked like things were getting hairy after that, so I figured you could use some help." And Nick winces, awkwardly rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, thanks. You saved our asses back there." Catherine says, "Sweet as it is to hear you eat crow. We're not out of the woods yet. Literally, follow me." Catherine leads you into the darkened bayou, the mud-choked undergrowth sucking at your feet with every step, until you emerge on the banks of a winding river overhung by cypress boughs, its rippling facets glimmering under the moonlight. Catherine says, "Our chariot awaits." And you follow her gaze to a bend in the river, where an airboat is tethered to the bank. Nick lets out a low, admiring whistle. And he says, "Okay, sweet ride. Not that I'm surprised. I hear your retainer's pretty high these days. If you'd rather swim, be my guest. I hear the water's just balmy this time of night. No alligators whatsoever." Catherine says. Beside you, Cal shifts back into human form, scrubbing at his face with both hands. Then he says, that smoke is deeply foul, reeks of wolf's bane. Miranda says, are you okay? Can you see? I'm fine, but we should hurry. They'll know we're gone soon as this clears. Octavia's been Kristoff's right hand for years. My money is on her ascending to Alpha, and she'll never let go of this. You file into the airboat, the deck bobbing beneath you, and Catherine takes the stick. Catherine says, strap in, everyone! Next stop, Crescent City! Back in the city, the four of you head to the graveyard shift to regroup. Garrus spots you as soon as you step in, his handsome face creasing with concern as you approach the bar. My immortals, if you don't mind me saying, you're looking a bit bedeviled. Oh, you like it? Nick says, rough night, Garrus. Real rough. I'm feeling even more grateful than usual to find my head still attached to my body. I wasn't doing accents before because I was like, okay, I don't want to completely butcher it, but folks were encouraging, so I was like, okay, I'll try it. If it's absolutely horrible, we're not doing it. So, Crom and Ivy scoot over to make room for you as you slide onto a stool, shooting you sympathetic looks. Next to you, Cal heaves a deep sigh, resting his forehead on his clenched fist. And you reach out to and gently rub his back. Miranda says, hey, are you okay? Cal says, I still can't believe Kristoff's dead. He lived for the hunt, for victory. I never saw him go down once, not even at a sparring match. And that blood rape took him down like he was nothing, less than nothing. And Catherine says, of course it did. That's what they do. And if that's what... and if that one's after Miranda, you're in way over your head, Nick. We all are. Getting tongue-tied. It's like, there's a lot of tongue twisters in this. Miranda says, I still don't understand. Who made that thing? And Nick says, someone who had it in for a Kristoff. Cal says, that's not exactly a short list. Yes, there is a Ouija board on the wall. Oh my god, I can't talk anymore. I swear, there's nothing in here but there's nothing in here but a refresher. I swear. I think this is. Oh, thanks, V. Yes, there is a Ouija board on the wall. I think it's super cool. If I could have one, I would. But I think my mom would lose it. Not I think, I know my mom would lose it. She would come to visit and just lose her mind. Oh, thank you, Richard. Yes, it has been a long day. I've been up since 4 a.m. for work. And I had to drive in the rain, which was very, very scary this morning. It was very scary. So it's been a long day. I will be sleeping very well tonight. After my caffeine wears off. Nick says, well, he was kind of a prodigious asshole, yeah. Not a whole lot of redeeming qualities. I was like, he was still my alpha. Catherine says, regardless, my employer certainly wasn't the only one who had him blacklisted. Miranda says, so why did it go after me before? Ivy says, you and Kristoff must have something in common. Some reason you'd have a shared enemy. Miranda says, I don't see how that's possible. Kristoff was a werewolf pack leader from New Orleans. Me? I'm no one. Nick gives you a searching gaze, thoughtfully rubbing his stubbled chin. And Nick says, a no one who could see through glamours? Pretty sure that makes you a someone, Miranda. And Catherine whirls toward you, her face slack with shock. So, there is more to you than meets the eye. Alright, Eric. Thanks for popping in. I appreciate it. She crosses her arms on the bar and leans over them, fixing you with a sharp, speculative look. And Catherine says, seeing through glamours borders on high magic. You don't stumble into a power like that by sheer accident. You court it. And Miranda says, but you and Nick can see through glamours. Catherine holds up an antique ring carved with intricate runes. At the same time, Nick pulls a small medallion out of his pocket. Nick says, anyone can crack a glamour with the right charm, but unless you've acquired any magical accessories lately. Catherine says, family heirlooms newly in your possession, maybe? The kind that glow and tingle and burn? Miranda says, I don't have anything like that. The closest I've been to any magical artifacts is Nick's place and Luke's shop, I guess, but this all started before I even met you, Nick. Catherine's gaze shifts between your eyes. Even Cal's brow is furrowed in confusion. Miranda says, I don't know what else to say. I didn't ask for this, any of this. And Crom lays a heavy hand on your shoulder, rumbling a dismayed sigh. No one says anything. No one's saying you did, Miranda, Crom says. And Catherine says, the thing is, if we can't figure out why you're able to do this... Miranda's kind of frowns a bit and says, you don't have to say it. I get it. I'm going to die. That thing won't stop until it kills me. Feeling as if the walls are closing in around you, you push away from the bar top, scrambling out of your stool. She's thinking, this is too much. It's all too much. Cal says, Miranda, wait. And Cal reaches for your hand as you squeeze by him, but you jerk away. And Miranda says, I just need a break from all of this, okay? Gareth says, well, there's a roof deck upstairs if you need some air. Half running, you rush to the door at the back of the bar and pound up the creaky stairs. At the very top, the door swings open onto a roof deck. You step out past weathered patio furniture and abandoned wine glasses. At the edge, you dangle your arms over the railing and take long, deep breaths. Yeah, V says, I felt for MC so much during this book. This was incredibly overwhelming. Yeah, she's had a rough time, you know. She's like, all she did was come to New Orleans to celebrate her birthday, and then all this wild stuff starts happening, you know. A lot of crazy stuff happened. And Miranda's thinking, get it together, Miranda, you'll get through this. But the feeling of dread only grows as you think of the blood wraith's empty eyes. Its shrieking rage, and your eyes sting with helpless tears. Behind you, the door creaks open, and you wheel around, heart leaping into your throat, but it's just Nick, holding up his hands with a sheepish smile. Hey, my bad. I didn't mean to freak you out, just thought you could use a little company. Letting out a dry, bitter chuckle, you turn back to the railing as Nick joins you. And Miranda says, you're not the one freaking me out. It's the whole mortal peril thing. Nick says, you'll feel better after a good night's sleep. Take it from an old pro. Miranda says, the thing is, I'm not sure I'll even be able to sleep. I can already imagine the nightmares. It'll be a nightmare-free zone, I promise. Don't forget, I've got you back, and I'm not going anywhere. I took a vow to protect you, Miranda, and I'll be damned if I let anything hurt you. Nick, how can anyone protect me? It's just, everyone keeps talking about how this blood wraith's the biggest bad there is. Hey, the holy light arrows chased it off, remember? That means it's not impervious to harm. And Miranda says, I remember, and you kick ass out there, but trying to fight it just seems so hopeless. Nick says, anything can be fought, Miranda. Trust me, I know. You turn to Nick, who's staring at the horizon with a distant, haunted expression on his face. Are you thinking about your family? Yeah, and the evil thing that killed them. And you lay a cautious hand on Nick's arm, and he slides his over it, squeezing. I was just a kid, 4 or 5. I shouldn't even remember it, but it's too damn horrible to forget. What happened? We were out on the bayou for a picnic. It was It was my mom's birthday. Oh, Nick. She loved the outdoors, wanted to celebrate in her favorite place. We had cake, big sparklers, the whole shebang. Maybe that's what attracted it. The laughter, the fire, hell, I don't know. It came out of nowhere just after sunset. One minute, we were all happy, and my mom teasing my dad about hogging the cake, and then Nick falls silent, his throat working as he swallows hard. And Miranda says, "You don't have to tell me the rest if you don't want to, if it hurts too much." "No, you need to know the truth. You deserve the truth, and this is the part of it. It blotted out the last of the sun, I remember that. It was so tall, all claws and shadows and bone, and its eyes they burned straight through me. It was like my insides were on fire, but I couldn't look away." The deep chill shudders through you, and your skin bursts into goosebumps. "Nick, that sounds terrifying. I thought that blood wraith was bad. This sounds..." Nick says, "Yeah, it looked like it crawled straight out of hell, like a living nightmare." And the man says, "Well, what happened then?" "As soon as she saw it, my mom shoved me toward the brush, and she told me to run, and I did. And I left her and my dad, and I left them with that thing." Miranda says, "Of course you did. There was nothing else you could have done. I keep thinking maybe if I'd stayed, maybe it might have given them a chance to run." And Miranda says, "No, Nick. They would have wanted you to make it, no matter what." Yeah. Yeah. Play Choices Podcast. V says the Blood Wraith was definitely the most badass antagonist ever, if it counts as an antagonist. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And I agree with you. It's pretty rough. Nick swipes roughly at his eyes with the back of his hand, and his jaws clenched. "It tore right into them. God, there was so much blood. It started screaming, and its head snapped up, its jaws all bloody. It saw me. It started coming toward me. I could hear the bones rattle with every step. And then something skewered it from behind, a spear, or maybe a damn tree branch. It fell down, screeching like a demon, and Elijah was standing right behind it." "You mean Elijah? Your adoptive dad?" "Yeah. Elijah Ryder, the first night hunter I ever met. And he picked me up and ran, with that thing still howling behind us. I remember he covered my eyes as we passed my parents, or what was left of them." And Miranda says, "Nick..." "He sang to me all low and quiet, all the way out of the bayou. And I let me cry all over him. I didn't have any other family. I would have wound up in the system, but he took me in instead, gave me his name. He taught me everything he knew, how to hunt monsters, how to kill them. He was all I had until he died." And with a visible effort, he draws himself up and gives you a lopsided smile. V says, "I love when Nick talks about his dad. Yeah, it's really sweet. Nick's broken heart never really heals, but it doesn't kill you either. Living proof over here. And that's why I hunt. To honor Elijah and my parents' memory every day and every night when the monsters come. So some other kid doesn't have to grow up without everyone he ever loved." And you turn, sliding your arms around Nick's lean waist and pulling him close. And after a moment, he relaxes, resting his temple against yours. Miranda says, "Thank you for telling me all that. I know it must have hurt so much to remember." Lady K says, "I'm not crying, my eyes are sweating." Choices Lady says, "Heartbreaking." Yes, it is. No one else knows that. Not at all. Not all of it. But I wanted you to know, Miranda, so you'd understand that you're safe with me. I made a vow to protect you, and I keep my goddamn promises." And Miranda says, "I know you do, and thank you." And you both go quiet, listening to the chorus of night sounds around you, and then Nick reluctantly draws away. Nick says, "We should head back down. Say goodnight to everyone. We both need to crash." V says, "I feel so safe, Nick. So safe." Miranda says, "I guess we should. I'm dead. I'm pretty dead on my feet." Downstairs, you rejoin the crew at the bar, still a little shaky, but feeling more like yourself. "Where's Catherine and Cal?" Garrus says, "Milady left soon after you. Some pressing business to attend to, and the wolf went home to check on his brother," Garrus says. Nick yawns hugely, stretching his arms over his head with a pop. "Time for me to hit the sack. Oh, Miranda, Crom swung by the alley where you got attacked the other night and found your suitcase." Miranda says, "Really? Crom, thank you so much!" "No, it was no trouble. Well, except for the raccoons." Miranda says, "Well, I guess I'll turn it for the night too." Garrus says, "Oh, do stay. Just one more drink. Even Crom is staying for one more, aren't you, darling?" Crom hurriedly looks away from Garrus, obviously flustered. "Yeah, Miranda says, "Wait a minute. Is Crom into Garrus?" "If you stay for another drink, you'll get a chance to spend some quality bonding time with Crom, Ivy, and Garrus. Yeah, let's do it. I guess a drink can't hurt, and I'll be safe down here, right, Nick?" Garrus's words are the real deal. Nothing with ill intent can cross his threshold without triggering some nasty consequences. Garrus bares his teeth in a sparkling feral grin. "Nothing would even dream of trying, I assure you. The creatures of this city are well aware of my staunch commitment to pacifism." Nick heads upstairs, tossing you a small private smile over his shoulder. "Yeah." You slide back in between Ivy and Crom, smiling at Garrus, who produces a calligraphed cocktail menu. "Now, what can I ply you with, my mortal? Your wish is my command." Pixie Punch, Cocoa Cauldron, Sea Salt Slurry. Well, let's do that. "This round's on me," Miranda says. Grinning, Garrus slides a blue and purple concoction in front of you. The drink swirls like a whirlpool, little clouds of foam spinning in the current. And Ivy says, "Yes! This one's the truth!" The four of you lift your drinks, clinking them together, and you take a sip, and a tangy, salty taste spreads over your tongue, your hair floating around you like fronds of seaweed. Miranda says, "This is unreal! It actually tastes like swimming in the ocean." Ivy says, "That's why I love it. Swimming used to be my favorite, but now that I don't breathe, bloop, I'd sink like a stone." As Garrus leaves to serve another guest, you notice Ivy swirling the drink in her glass, her glowing amber eyes staring into space. And Miranda says, "I don't want to sound rude, but I've been wondering, how did you, shuffle off the mortal coil?" "Yeah, if that's not a rude question." "Not at all. It was a touch of hubris on my part. I've been into occult stuff since forever, and I got my hands on a copy of the Necronomicon way too young. Anyway, the short version is, I accidentally summoned an elder spirit." Miranda says, "You're kidding me." "I wish. Arcos the Hungry. Big, chthonic jerk. Showed up in one of my dreams, all, 'Ooh, look at me, I'm gonna eat the stars, blah blah blah.'" She rolls her eyes. "Anyway, I talked him out of it, convinced him one soul would taste better than a whole cosmos, and then I tricked him, hid part of my soul in an amulet, and fed him the rest wrapped in a banishing spell. Once he was gone, I patched myself up as best I could." Miranda says, Wow, Ivy, I've seen and heard a lot of weird stuff in the past few days, but this is something else. Are you telling me you saved the world?" Ivy says, technically, sure, I guess." And Miranda says, "That's totally wild!" Ivy shrugs. "Hey, you break it, you buy it, right? I was the one who let him loose." Miranda says, "You seem so nonchalant about it." Ivy says, "Living forever lends a certain sense of perspective. Where's the fun in wallowing for all eternity?" And Miranda says, "But he ate your soul." "Only most of it, hence mostly dead." And Miranda says, "This is unbelievable." What's unbelievable is that Crom has been pining over the same guy for months and still hasn't said anything. And Crom turns to you and Ivy, surprised. I don't pine. Oh, please. You practically melt into a puddle every time he looks at you. And you cock your head at Crom, who blushes furiously and steals an involuntary glance at Garrus on the other side of the bar. You do like him! Shh! Miranda says, sorry. I mean, have you guys gone out yet? And Crom says, what? Me and him? I'm a stone troll. He's the heir of the Fey Viscount. Or was anyway, before they cast him out. Miranda says, so Garrus is in exile? The Fey court was too uptight for him is all. He needed freedom. Ivy says, what he means is Garrus got banished for running cons and swindling magic off the upper crust. It's called redistribution of wealth, Ivy. It's noble. Smirking, Ivy leans over to whisper to you. Ivy says, he's got it bad. As Garrus swings back toward your group, you lean closer to Crom. Miranda says, Crom? Garrus is totally into you. I mean, he called you darling earlier. He doesn't mean anything. He flirts with everyone. Miranda says, maybe, but he's got a special soft spot for you, Crom. I can sense it. Crom gives you an uncertain look. You really think so? Definitely. Ask him out. You have to. Seriously. The tension is killing me and I'm mostly dead. As Garrus rejoins your group, Crom folds his shaking hands in his lap and clears his throat, glancing sidelong at you. Then you give him an encouraging nod. Crom says, so, Garrus, I was just wondering if... And Crom trails off, fiddling nervously with the hem of his shirt, and Garrus props his elbows on the bar, rests on his chin on them, and peering at Crom through long lashes. You were wondering? Please, do go on. Just if maybe, if you have any plans later this week. Oh, scat! I'm planning to clean the floor and reset the wards, trim my hair, perhaps a perfumed bubble bath. Crom says, I was actually wondering if you'd like to do something together. Well, I suppose you could help me think of next week's cocktail specials. How is your alchemy? That's not what I'm trying to ask if you would like to, And Garrus says, yes? To, go on a date with me? And Garrus grins, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Garrus says, of course I would! Perhaps Friday, sunset? Glancing down at his hands, Crom smiles and gives a tiny nod. Garrus says, perfect, I'll be there with bells on. And Garrus leans forward to kiss Crom lightly on the cheek and then bustles off to pour more drinks. Ivy reaches over to slap a grinning Crom on the back. See, was that so hard? Miranda says, I think that's my cue. Yawning, you slip off the chair and wave, heading for the stairs. Miranda says, see you all soon and thank you for tonight. Thank you, Crom says. And Ivy says, let's hang again soon, okay? Demon tales galore over here. And you head up to Nick's apartment and let yourself in. Inside, you change into your pajamas and let out a jaw-popping yawn. Oof, feels like I've been awake for days. And you flop down on the couch and asleep before your head even hits the pillow. You wake blearily to a shaft of late afternoon sunlight falling across your face. What time is it? Grimacing, you sit up and reach into your pocket for your phone and see several message notifications on the screen. Vera texts, hey, Miranda, it's Vera. Sorry for going MIA. I wanted to tell you that Kristen's awake. I'm staying with her at the hospital. Miranda says, just got this. Oh, on my way, OMW. Hammering, you leap off the couch and scrawl a hasty note to Nick, and then you hurriedly get dressed and pound down the stairs. A little while later, you burst into a hospital room, still out of breath from arguing your way past the nurse at the reception desk. And Miranda says, Kristen, And the joy fades as you take in Kristen lying still on the hospital bed. Her eyes are closed, and her left arm heavily bandaged, and her foot in a suspended cast. And you shoot a distressed glance at Vera, who's sitting in the chair by Kristen's bed. Vera says, "You made it." Miranda says, "I thought you said she was awake." And Kristen's eyes flutter open as she gives you a weak, tremulous smile. "I am, just resting my eyes a little, but I'm really, really glad to see you." And you perch carefully on the side of Kristen's bed, gently taking her hand. Miranda says, "How are you feeling?" Doctor says, "I just need rest, but stuff hurts. All the stuff. The assholes who mugged us really messed me up." Miranda says, "Mugged?" Kristen says, "Vera told me. I remember arguing with that bouncer at Rougarou, but after that, everything just fades to black. Probably better I don't remember any of it, huh?" Miranda says, "Definitely better. It was a bad scene. The worst." Kristen's eyes flutter sleepily, and she gives a pained moan as she shifts to her side, and you squeeze her hand, heart clenching. Miranda says, "We should let you sleep, but text if you need anything, okay? I'm here anytime you need me." "We should let you sleep, but..." Whoop. "Me too, Cookie. Just a phone call away," Vera says. And Kristen says, "Okay, love you guys." You step out into the hospital hallway with Vera quietly shutting the door behind you. And Miranda says, "So Vera, where the hell have you been? I've been looking for you for days. You just disappeared." "I know. I'm so sorry." "What happened back there in the alley?" After that thing chased you away, I called for an ambulance to come and get Kristen. I tried to contact you, but I didn't have your number until Kristen woke up and gave it to me. Miranda, I know this is a lot, but we both know we saw something impossible that night. Something not human." And you swallow hard, biting your lip. Miranda says, "Yeah, we did." And Vera says, "I mean, it put Kristen in a coma just by touching her. I've seen some unbelievable things in this town, but nothing like that." Miranda says, "It's a blood wraith." And Vera's mouth drops. Oh God, I thought they were a myth." And Miranda says, "Wait, you've heard of them? How?" And Vera says, "How have you?" Miranda says, "I've learned a lot in the past few days, more than I ever wanted to know, frankly. Sounds like you've been through a lot, and I feel like crap for not being there to help. Maybe I can make it up to you. There's a really cool spot nearby, sangria and tapas under the stars, live music, and you can tell me all about what happened. What do you say?" "I really have to get back. That sounds wonderful, but I really have to run. A friend's expecting me." And Vera gives you a brief, regretful smile, nodding tightly. Vera says, "Of course, I get it. I'll just go check on Kristen one more time. Maybe we can catch up soon. You have my number. And I meant what I said to Kristen. I'm just a phone call away, so if you ever need anything..." Miranda says, "Thanks, Vera. That means a lot." Abruptly, Vera pulls you in for a quick, tight hug, her soft curls brushing your cheek. "Stay safe, okay? I don't think I could stand it if something happened to you, too." Miranda says, "I'll be okay. Promise. I'm tougher than I look." Vera presses her lips together and nods, and her eyes glossy with tears, and then disappears back into Kristen's room. You make your way out of the hospital and walk briskly towards Nick's place. Glancing at the time, you turn to take a shortcut through a narrow alley, because that's smart. "Crap! Nick's probably freaking out," Miranda says. And as you cut between the narrow walls, you hear a faint scraping sound behind you. "See, don't you know this is like the worst thing to do?" Miranda says, "What the?" A long shadow falls over you, and you wheel around, coming face to face with a lurching figure in tattered, soil-streaked rags. And it's a zombie. And Miranda says, "Oh my God!" And its decayed jaw hangs unhinged as it lets out a dry, rattling rasp, and it lumbers towards you, swiping at the air, and you stumble away. Until your back is pressed up against a dumpster. "No! Get away from me!" With a hissing rasp, the corpse lurches at you, its icy hands clamping over your wrists. And Miranda screams, "Ah!" And you struggle, but its grip is horrifically strong, and it wrenches your arms down, pinning them by your sides. Frantic, you thrash from side to side, straining with all your might as its rotting face looms closer, fetid breath spilling over you. And Miranda screams, "No! I should kick it." You sweep your leg out, slamming into the zombie's shin with a horrible squelching sound. But the zombie's face only contorts with rage, and it wraps one deathly cold, vice-like hand around your neck. And it hisses. And Miranda goes, "Erk." As your vision begins to dim, darkening at the edges, you see Vera appear behind the corpse's shoulder. "Miranda!" Keeping you pinned, the zombie turns on her, rumbling with rage. Vera recoils, terrified, and then yanks off one of her gloves. And she shouts. Vera lunges forward, pressing her bare palm against the zombie's forehead. "Scree!" the zombie shouts, shrieking. The corpse withers on itself, mottled skin curling back over exposed tendons as the creature writhes in agony and then crumbles into dust, leaving a single silver coin spinning on the ground. You struggling for breath, you slump against the dumpster. Vera stays where she is, trembling hands still outstretched, her eyes wide with fear. And Miranda says, "How the hell did you do that?" Vera says, "Miranda, there's something I need to tell you. It's time I told you the truth." What is Vera hiding, and who sent the walking corpse after you? Keep playing to find out. And we will find out next week. So